Julie there.
Here.
Candida Hunter is there. Susan McAlpine.
Here.
Ashley Pascal.
Here.
Diane Singer.
Thank you. You'll be watching Candida and looking at that screen and voting with Amy through Amy and recording that also. Thank you so much. All right, audience of any citizen, Ms. Ashley Pascal.
Workshop agenda.
That's good.
All right, here we go. This is the time for the public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS, do I have to read that every time? Okay, 3843 1.01H. Action taken as a result of the public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Citizens wishing to comment will be limited to one opportunity to speak, and the president of the board may limit the time for the individual presentation and the total time for all presentations.
Thank you. That was a little too slow.
I know, I need to speed it up.
All right. 2 seconds. Tremaine, are you up at North? Oh, he's just here. Okay. I didn't know. Where are we? I'm looking at the screens, but I don't know who's where. Let's start with the top left-hand corner. That would be, Bullhead City. Bullhead, hi.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We do not have anyone here present on the Bullhead City campus for public comment at this time.
Well, thank you. I see the chairs stacked in the far corner, and then I see 2 people back by the speaker. And you're all about the size of little tiny Legos, so I wasn't sure. Thank you so much, Tim, and all of you.
Not a problem.
All right. And then we'll go over to Lake Havasu. Are you?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. We do not have anybody here to address the board this morning.
Is there anything you'd like to say since you're talking to an empty room?
Good morning from Lake Havasu. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. All right, and now we have North?
North does not have their camera on.
Okay.
So
Is there anybody at North that would like to address the board? Is Carolyn there?
Yes, Madam Chairman, there's nobody at North who wishes to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Carolyn. And now we're in Kingman. Is Tremaine in Kingman, but I'm seeing him elsewhere?
I'm in Kingman elsewhere, but
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no citizens wishing to address the board this morning in Kingman.
All right, thank you.
he's not spreading his germs.
I was just wondering, because I keep seeing the center screen showing us, and I thought, speaking, all right, that all sounds good. No one wants to address the board. I don't know if that sounds good or not. Consent agenda in Appendix 1. We can remove items from the consent agenda, or we can approve it as it stands.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda as previously provided to us for review and as presented.
Looking for a second? Thank you. Diane seconded. Any conversation or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Janine Ramirez. Are you somewhere? There she is. Hi, Janine.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, President Klippenstein. For the Staff Council report, we have no new updates. Our next meeting will be on May 5th at 10:30. Some of our agenda items are the officer elections, and we will continue to discuss our inter-office mailing system. Also, reminders were sent out to all staff about Monday's staff visit with HLC, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. And you're meeting on Cinco de Mayo? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
I don't know. I think that sounds kind of festive.
Hopefully.
Yes. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Cooper? There she is.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, Madam President and board. I am working from my home office this morning, so Yes, I'm sitting outside, so my glasses have turned dark. I apologize for that. Faculty evaluation was finalized and sent on to cabinet, so that went real well. We have now switched faculty evaluations to happen once a year and simplified it slightly for the faculty and administration to be able to get that done for all the faculty every year. And we've been working hard, getting ready for HLC Monday and Tuesday. And right now, our next meeting is scheduled for April 21st at noon. However, we don't believe we have anything for this meeting. We did not have a previous meeting in March. It's been nice and calm at the college, and everyone's just working hard, trying to get things finished for commencement around the corner. So we may wait until May 10th to have our next meeting. And all is going very smooth with all the new technologies that we've got. And we think we finally are settled in and moving forward smoothly with all
Thank you.
systems.
That's always good to hear, the smoothly part, and
Yes.
2 months without a meeting must have made you happy.
It does. It does. It's like, okay, no one's having any issues and everything's flowing smooth. So that's good. And all the professional development that we've been having has been real great. And so it's been
A
fabulous.
successful year, good.
Yes, it has.
Technology and the PD, great, thank you for that. Thank you both, Janine and Dr. Clover.
You
All
bet.
right. Susan, you are up next.
As far as AACCT and ACCT, I haven't received a final agenda for the meeting at the end of this month down in Phoenix from David. Have either of you? You think, yes, you have?
The most
Well,
recent
yeah, I
version.
received an agenda. I don't know. I
Okay.
have the list of the sessions and
Okay,
topics.
I didn't get that, but anyhow, so at least you know. And then the other thing that's coming up is the 2023 ACT Leadership Conference that's going to be up in Las Vegas next year from October 9th to 12th. And they're looking for, they've got a call out for presentations. So the deadline for those presentations is Monday, May 15th. And the tracks are uplifting students, transforming communities, which is strategies for community engagement, driving economic growth, enrollment strategies, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and technologically supported innovation. So if anybody's interested, I'm sure Amy and President Klippenstein have the information too, because it's in our agenda. But if anybody wants to pick up this flyer from me, you can certainly do that.
Are you going to put together a presentation?
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Wasn't my intent.
We haven't had a chance to discuss. We just did a presentation at AACC, which tied into the non-credit and all of that. There was some really good points from that we might take a look at. And but we have not yet considered it. Just got back from AACC and that presentation. So I will talk to Dr. Culver.
Proud to have you.
Assignment.
I wasn't meaning to put you on the spot.
No, I know, I'm just teasing you.
Prompting you.
No, but it would be nice to have a presentation from a college so close to where the
Where the
conference
site
actually is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And usually, if I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure what it says in there, it will take a guest speaker, always a board member.
Yes.
So we would need to know who plans to go and would want to participate.
Either way, I'm not going because you're speaking. Yeah, we did that. We put something, Mike did in Jess in Dallas.
Yeah.
And we went. And I was the token board member. So in San Diego, when I went to that conference, I can't tell you how many old board members, because there's a lot of old people that go to those conferences, including myself. I said, I remember you, you're the token board member from Arizona. So my comment, you just have to make one sentence comment, the rest of it's done by your colleagues, so. But as far as going anyway, when I saw it was in Las Vegas, I thought, maybe we can
Yeah,
get
I'm trying,
attendance, yeah.
like permitting. I'm
Yes,
going.
exactly. So everybody start thinking about that now. Because that's so close. All right. Well, thank you for that, Susan. Dr. Klippenstein, you are up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We have a few items under the president's reports. Obviously, one of the big ones coming up is our HLC update with Danette. So we're excited to have Danette here today. Dr. Culver will talk a little bit about, and Sean, about strategic plan and alignment with a few items there. And I'll be able to provide a good overview, hopefully, of where we're at legislatively and then plus some other MCC items. And then we'll get into the employee comp package with Jennifer Picard. But always, as always, we always like to start with the Mohave Minute report. And I think Erica's got that one. The Mohave Minute.
Thank you. Had it. Had it. Had it. Had it.
First up, congratulations to the newest members of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society from Lake Havasu and Bullhead City.
So, it's been an honor to be with such a distinguished group of students, paving the way towards academic excellence and personal achievement.
In Havasu, Mayor Cal Sheehy, a former MCC student himself, was the guest speaker for the induction ceremony, and they welcomed 14 students into the society. In Bullhead City, the Honor Society welcomed 45 new students.
That are being inducted because we have great students at Mohave Community College. And our whole goal is to continue to be able to do what we can to help you thrive and be successful in everything you do.
If you're interested in learning more about PTK and the benefits its members enjoy, contact the office of your local campus dean of student and community engagement. In your employee spotlight, several were recognized at a recent President's Cabinet meeting on the Havasu campus. It included the entire Havasu facilities team. Among their many accomplishments, students say they enjoy working with the team to create a welcoming space for everyone. Also recognized for outstanding work, Havasu Library Office Technician Nadia Suarez, who always volunteers to help with campus events and proves every day she's a team player. Budget Services Director Nancy Darnell was recognized for her kindness and patience explaining budget procedures to employees, and she's a joy to work with. And IT VMware Administrator Josh Walters was recognized after he was spotted shoveling snow from campus sidewalks off hours, something he decided to do on his own to help. Congratulations to all. A lot of events to get to that have been happening on all the campuses. We'll start with the Bighorn Trek. Welding was one of the many programs sparking interest with visitors at the Bullhead City campus. The event, formerly called Connecting the Community, or CONCOM, rebranded and expanded and will be held on each southern campus once a year. In Bullhead, hundreds of middle and high school students, along with members of the community, came to the campus to learn about all the programs and pathways that lead directly to careers after MCC and transfer opportunities at our university partners. Arizona at Work held a successful job fair during the event, and the annual Show and Shine Car Show helped highlight the auto service and collision repair programs. The Student Activities Council in Kingman hosted a make-up prom for those who missed their prom because of the pandemic and for those who wanted to just relive that high school memory. It was a great turnout at the Beale Street Center, and the make-up prom turned out to be the talk of downtown Kingman that night. The Kingman Campus Computer Club MC4 held another gaming event fundraiser. Students and the public are invited to play video games for free as long as they bring a pet food donation. All the donations benefit a local no-kill animal shelter. The College Health, Public Safety, and Human Services programs hosted another Shindig. Students interested in working toward a degree in any of the programs were able to get more information on those programs and from local agencies and businesses that might hire them. MCC's Bullhead City Student Art Club hosted its third annual Flash Film Festival, where members of the community competed to win the grand prize of $500. This year's grand prize winner is Charlie McCune, a 12-year-old from Fox Creek Junior High. His film is called Lego Royale. Charlie joined the film festival to accept his award from a hotel swimming pool in Phoenix, where he was for a weekend statewide STEM competition. By the way, his team there placed third, so it was a grand weekend for the grand prize winner. Head online to the Mohave Wire at mohave.edu/MohaveWire and click the Film Festival story to see the first and second placers for each category. The Student Nursing Association and Student Activities Council hosted an Easter triathlon for the Kingman community. Attendees were able to participate in many fun activities and take pictures with the Easter Bunny. In Lake Havasu, the Student Nursing Association held its Easter movie night and showed the film Hop. The first 100 children received Easter baskets, participated in an egg hunt, and took pictures with the Easter Bunny. Stay up to date with college news and events by following the MCC social media pages, website, and YouTube channel, where you can see every newscast. And don't forget, if you have a story idea, send it to mcc@mohave.edu.
Good one. Yeah. Before we move on, I'd like to acknowledge that Sean Bristol actually started what we're calling Bighorn Trek, and I do like the name. I think the name's really clever and the activity. He started it on the Bullhead campus as ComCom. It was very successful for several years or more, and it's transitioned into this, and on all the campuses, all three, it's wonderful. So thanks for that little seedling you planted, and boy, they've just taken it and run, haven't they? It's wonderful. Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, I do want to just make a comment about the Mohave Minute. There are a lot of activities, as you saw, and the other day during a community advisory meeting with, there's about 25 community members out of Kingman that were here on campus, and we were providing updates. And Tremaine mentioned that when they were tracking how many of the student activities or activities on campus, probably prior to or during COVID, it was maybe 100, and we doubled that over the last year or two. And we're even exceeding this year over last year. And he's just so excited. And the deans are, so I compliment all the deans and all the work that they do as well. All the club advisors, all of that. So a lot more activity has been going on our college campuses, as you can see. So we're just excited about that. So I just want to compliment them for their work.
And I want to question you and put you on the spot and everyone in the room. Who went to the prom?
We were at HLC.
We were at HLC.
Good excuse.
No. It seems like several years ago, probably was only months ago, there was conversation about working with the county television, city television, Kingman station to get that Mohave Minute on once a month as a PSA. And I wondered if that ever went anywhere. I sent texts and then received texts back that they were gonna chat with staff, but never heard anything else back. Just wondered, because it really should be televised, promoted, Bullhead, Lake Havasu, Kingman.
James is next door.
I think he does the secretary. They show it or not, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll definitely follow up with James on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a nice.
He would know the viewership, even if it's not being shown, right? This is the part we've all been waiting for.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. So we have Danette here to talk a little bit and provide an overview of the HLC visit on Monday and Tuesday. Over the last really 2 weeks, but longer, but the last 2 weeks, Danette has been doing a lot of what we call prep sessions with various different groups who will be involved next week, either in group forums or in specific meetings. And she completed that with the faculty yesterday afternoon, and then she is working with you today to provide some general overview of the upcoming visit and the action that will, or at least the activity that will take place Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock or 7:45 they arrive. 8 o'clock is when we start with the Board of Governors and their team. A lot of logistics has been going on behind the scenes, so I do have to compliment many people in the room, Amy and Danette especially, and many others as well on each of the college campuses to set this up. They're never easy. As well as over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I know Danette has been inundated for a while there with the evaluation team with their specific maybe added request of added information or whatever else. And our goal is that takes top priority, and within 24 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, we were able to at least submit information that they requested. So they are hopefully happy evaluators when they come onto campus because they received all their information. So Danette did all that work behind the scenes with others too to supply, but Danette did all that work. So I just wanted to compliment Danette on that. And then now, Danette, I'll pass it over to you.
So yes, we're having another shindig, different kind. Monday, Tuesday, this is the last prep session for everyone, so yay. People at the college are very, very sick of hearing my voice the past 2 weeks, so I understand. So the visit will start with a brief session with the president, just kind of an overview of what will happen. The sessions are set up to be specific to the criteria groups. So 1 and 2 are together, 2, 3, and 4. And then there are focus group sessions, which are deeper dives into specific subject areas. The areas where they're going to do a deeper dive in questioning us are student success, so enrollment and retention, strategic planning, curriculum and assessment, and we have a federal compliance session, which is just normal operating business kind of stuff. Your session is on Tuesday morning. It is set up so that the reviewers are in a classroom with a Zoom session set up, so Zoom will be available. We will be serving them breakfast at the same time, which is why they wanted a little bit longer meeting. So I have a few questions that you've passed.
Oh, yep, I have those, sorry. I failed at my job.
So with all of the groups that we work with, we've done mock interviews where I play the peer reviewer. We don't want to do that here necessarily, but I wanted you to have some of the questions that are commonly asked of board members. So of course, all of the ALOs in the HLC group talk to each other after visits, and we kind of try to keep lists of questions, commonly asked questions during each session. The board, they will ask you about structure, governance, your own evaluation system. They may ask you about the mission and how it was developed, how the strategic plan was developed. If you don't have your little red book around, you might want to peruse the little red book. Jim, do you have some in your pocket?
Oh, I always have one. You need one?
So they may ask about specific.
Rather than search, thank you.
They'll ask about specific things like, what are the strategic initiatives of MCC? How does the board support that? How do you work with the college in budgeting? Sometimes they ask questions about operations versus governance. I don't think they'll ask that here because we're not Maricopa. But kind of the stay in your lane questions, are you staying in the governance lane? I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago that the Maricopa board wasn't in their lane, so HLC did come in and it was big to do. So questions for me. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Are you worried about anything?
Don't need to worry. I think it's interesting, though, you talk about being put on the spot. We get a list of 8 questions and we won't have a chance to actually review these together as a group. And so we'll just have to, and we're going Zoom, so we'll be individual. If I chose to come up one by one, I know I first said I was Zooming. That's not you, that's on me. But if I decided that morning that I was going to drive up, what room would you be in?
303.
Okay, thanks.
And I was going to say the same thing. It would be nice, and I don't know if we can take out of our workshop session today or whether it has to be publicized, to kind of go over that and talk a little bit about this, and maybe each one of us that's going to participate sort of answer and be really prepared to answer.
I figured you that you wouldn't want to do that in an open session, but.
No, and we don't have anything on the agenda to cover this, so we won't be able to do that anyway. But maybe if, Danette, are you on this site today all day? Or are you part of the day?
Yes, I need to be. Yes.
Keeping your hours. Yeah, I just meant maybe as people have a chance at break or something, if someone had a question, I could approach you singly, okay? Thank you. And Candida, I would like to catch some of your laryngitis. Could you send it to me? Yeah. Okay. Just teasing, I wasn't saying. Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Danette.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board too, and when you're looking at these, if you wish to call me at any time too to walk through anything, I'm there over the next, whatever it is, 72 hours.
Well, it's
until
Friday
Tuesday morning.
afternoon, and I think they're gonna be pretty busy too there.
So anyways, but yeah, no, if you have any questions or whatever else, please give me a holler, or if you want to put something in an email to me with one of these questions or another ones that you think they may ask. If you need any input from me, please just holler at me.
Thank you, appreciate that. Well, make sure you keep your book and go through it.
Yeah, it just, it's, as many of us are gonna be zooming into this, it just seems like it's going to be a little convoluted.
That's good. That, it's better that we're scattered, if that's what you feel.
But the same thing for the visiting people. I mean, they're gonna ask a question and there's gonna be blank airspace unless they say, Susan McAlpine, what do you describe the board development?
Who's gonna facilitate the Zoom session, do you know?
We need a little bit of a game plan.
Well,
Stacy
we'll
and
have to
I-
figure
Stacy
that
and I
out.
will be in the room.
Yeah,
It's
well,
an open
we can't
session.
talk about it with Susan actually. So, and Amy is going to facilitate the actual mechanics of it, so we'll go on that. How many of you are zooming in? I was thinking about showing up in person.
Is this the 8 a.m.?
Yeah, 8 a.m. up here.
I will be,
Perhaps not, but that's fine.
I can call in. I don't know if I'll be on Zoom camera.
Gotcha. Or you could be on Zoom, but not put your picture up. That way you could still be brushing your teeth.
Well, I think I'll be in the car.
Oh, no, I was just teasing. So, anyway, all right, well, we'll get through that. Thank you.
And just one other item on that, the chair, so all of the 5, I think it's all 5 evaluators will be in the room at that time, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so Chair Abrahamson, Dr. Abrahamson, she'll be leading, and we don't know, these are just anticipated.
No, I know.
Based on the reading, so it could be a more general conversation. It might only be one of these real specifics. It could be something that we're not anticipating.
Right.
This is what Danette's been trying to do with each of the groups, kind of thinking through what we have in our written argument or assurance argument, what typically might be a question they'll ask, just from our understanding from HLC in general. So we're not set on this, so, but we'll see, and they will lead that. We are there to help facilitate as best as we possibly can.
Well, I remember last time we were all excited and we had all our lines memorized, and I think we sat around and ate dinner and talked about where they were from or something. So, really, I'm not just saying that. That's what happened. I thought, this is not unpleasant, so. It's not a test. That's what we got.
It's not a test. That's correct. It's a conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Madam Chair, we'll move on to item C, which is strategic plan and alignment. I think Tim is going to kick it off and let Tim move forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. Each month, we try to give you an update where we are with certain aspects of our strategic planning efforts. In this month, we're going to talk about the different action plans for scheduling and delivery modalities of our courses. So you can read the blurb there, but I'm going to talk about some scheduling action planning that's happening. And Jason's going to talk about some delivery modalities in the CTE courses. So first of all, just some background information. We entered into an agreement with a company called Ad Astra, and what they do is they do strategic scheduling analyses where they'll take data that we provided to them. They looked at data from 2017 through 2022, and they did 2 different analyses. First one is a course offerings review, and the second one is a capacity analysis. So they looked at 2 different things. So I'll first talk about the course offerings review. They use data from fall 22 for the particular data points that I'm going to talk about right now. Some of these are not surprising data points. Some of these you might find interesting. For instance, 64% of our course offerings are 100 level and 56% are 200 level. So that's not too surprising to most of us, I don't think. And if you have questions as I I'm going to be providing a lot of numbers. And so if the number doesn't make sense, please just stop me and ask me for clarification.
So how about if you just repeat that first one again?
Yeah. Yeah, the 100 level offerings represent 64% of our courses in the fall 22, and 56% of our courses were 200 offerings in the fall of 22. Being a lower division institution and knowing that more students are going to be taking 100 level classes more often, more frequently than because we're an open enrollment access institution. So those numbers aren't surprising to anybody. Question?
I know it's not a good question.
It's a good question. Every question is a good question.
Oh, I've heard that one many times. And I guess if 64% are 100 level classes, 56% are 200 level classes, it's either or. Why doesn't it have 200%? Or B, where are the rest of the classes?
So when we look at all the courses that are offered in the fall of 22, 56% of them are at the 200 level for second year students or students who have progressed into their third year or their fourth year, however long they've been here. They're nearing 200 level courses means they're nearing completion. So we have a lot of students in 100 level courses, for instance, in Jason's area, who are doing certificates in welding, and they're taking 4 courses in welding at the first, well, not the first time, but for maybe a year, right? And this is also the case in other CT areas. So the compression is more in 100 levels. We have more students taking more 100 level courses.
Okay, another dumb question. How come it adds up to 120%?
That's where I'm having trouble.
I see what you're saying.
And I keep thinking I must not have read this.
Yeah, so when they were looking at the 200 level and the 100 level courses to try to get a sense of what's the enrollment ratio or the fill rate. So of the courses they were looking at, 64% were 100 level and 56% were 200 level of the courses they were looking at for enrollment rates.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So now I understand why you're saying what you're saying. So it's not a dumb question. It's a smart question.
After all, it wasn't. It turned out.
That's right.
Thank you.
So I now understand what you're saying.
Thank you so much.
The enrollment ratio and how that's computed is what's the average enrollment divided by the capacity.
Sure.
So that average fill rate is 62%. In the fall of 22. So an example might be the room has 21 seats and 13 students are in the course. So 62%. So just so what, somebody might say, so what? 62%, is that good or is that bad? The national mean for 2-year schools is 70%. So we are underperforming in how we are filling our classes. For our Carnegie classification, which if you remember is, sorry?
I'm talking to myself, I'm sorry.
Yeah, our Carnegie classification would be adult, a mix of gen ed and workforce. And so for that Carnegie classification, we're not different, 62%. The range is somewhere between 60 and 74% of this fill rate for 2-year schools. And we are at 62, so we're at the lower end of the range. Interesting information, 7% of our classes, meaning they have very high enrollment ratios, only 7% of the classes they analyzed were overloaded. In other words, they had more than the 62%. They had 95% or greater. So only 7% of our courses are overloaded. 35% of our courses that they analyzed were balanced, meaning they were in that range that I was talking about a minute ago. They're not too high, they're not too low. They're where we want them to be. Here's the one, 59% of our course offering analysis, the enrollment rate was less than 70%. So that's why we have that 62% overall average. At Astra says our target should be 85. We should be looking at an 85% fill rate. Again, enrollment divided by capacity. Here's another interesting data point that they gave us in the analysis was 283 of the fall 22 courses only offered one section. So 283 only offered one section. At the other end of the spectrum, one course offered 11 sections. You can probably guess what that might be. English,
101.
math, 120.
Yeah.
You know, English and math.
The prereq.
Yeah. And so those courses, interesting enough, the 283 courses that only offered one section had an enrollment fill rate of 54%. So what that means is, per Ad Astra, is we have 283 courses that are sort of scattered out there, and we're not sure that how they should be scheduled. And I'll talk about meeting patterns in a second, because if the enrollment ratio is 54% for those 283 classes, that means they're only half full-ish, right? For those 283 classes. So anyway, we're gathering these data, and I know they're interesting numbers to look at, but what they're saying is, what Ad Astra is recommending is we should be looking, especially in those highly enrolled gen ed classes, the 11 section English classes, what are the bottlenecks? And are those classes causing the student not to be able to take something else because of the next topic I'm going to talk about, which is the space utilization capacity analysis. So we have a standard week of scheduling for courses. That's Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. That's the range. Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. However, there's a prime time that's within that. The prime time is 8 to 12, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 1 to 4, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Are you hearing what's not happening?
Yeah.
And 5:30 to 8:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Like,
So what does that mean?
no Friday nights.
And so with that standard week and then the primetime week, what happens is this. There's 182 meeting patterns within that. What that means is we're not using a standard grid. And those who've been around a while say we used to, right? Jason, right, Danette, she's down here. We used to have a standard grid, which means Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 9:50. Tuesday, Thursday, 8 to 10, 9 to 10:20.
Right.
Right, that standard grid we're all used to, that we all grew up. We've gotten away from that. We have 182 meeting patterns in 386 sections. They're here, they're there.
Yeah.
So what happens is a student has to choose. I can take that 8 to 9:50 class, but if there's one that's overlaps and then the one that's down here, because I don't have a third hand, the meeting grid says I can only pick one, and there were 3 scheduled during that time period. Right? So Dr. Singer.
Do we factor in the online course availability into this too? Because that's where students could be going.
Yeah, they could.
And then the second question is, when they're looking at the factors that affect attendance in these schedules classes, do they look at our students, their demographics, their attendance, what they're doing, their work hours, et cetera?
No.
Because isn't that important to know?
It is very important. And getting back to your comment about the asynchronous courses, I have a theory that students are, 40% of our, let me make sure I got it right. In the fall of this coming fall, in the fall of 23, 39, I was close. 39% of our courses are totally asynchronous. My theory is because of that irregular meeting grid, they're going to those asynchronous courses because they fill up first. And plus their preferences, and that'll be convenient, right? And so yeah, no, they didn't look at any of the student information in terms of working. They just looked at your classroom utilization. Should they?
We look at that?
Yeah, it's just data that we don't necessarily collect or that we know for every single student.
I guess where I'm going with this is if they're going to make a recommendation, but they left out this one data set that could help inform the decisions that we make.
Right.
I don't know how to put that together personally, but.
Yeah, I think the advisors could know that information when they're talking to a student and help schedule appropriately. But in terms of making the recommendation is simple. Stop having 35,000 meeting patterns. Get back to.
And why did that happen?
I don't know if we just had multiple locations scheduling multiple things without talking to each other. I don't know, Jason, if you have info about why that happened.
Yeah, well, so I'm gonna first off I'm gonna admit that I am hugely responsible for a whole lot of those irregular meeting patterns because of the CTE programs.
And health professions as well.
Yes.
Okay, I can't speak for them though. I'm just saying, I'm gonna take the blame for what I've done. She can blame herself if she wants. But there was a lot of discussion going back to the more traditional pattern that it was influenced a lot by outside conditions. For example, in Bullhead City, the influence of Laughlin and the casinos and the students who were working in that arena, it was a major concern that Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes couldn't be attended because their weekends are not Saturday, Sunday weekends. Some people have weekends on Monday and Tuesday, and some of them on Wednesday and Thursday. And so we would start to adapt at the Bullhead City campus to meet the needs of the students in that area. Those needs were different at Kingman and in Lake Havasu. And so while we would have the conversation initially as associate deans together, then we would say, okay, but that's not going to work for me. And so I'm going to make this adaptation. And then this person would make this adaptation and this adaptation until we got to the point where I don't even know it. And again, I moved over into CTE where, like I said, I made a huge mess of things. And I don't know what happened with the more traditional classes in terms of how much discussion went on because I was operating in a kind of a separate world at that point.
Sure. And that's the issue, operating in a separate world.
Yeah.
But it's also important when you're looking at that report to answer that, to say, oh, wait a minute, we have our traditional schedule here based on our students versus North Country that would be very different versus, would be slightly different in Kingman and.
Yeah, that's accommodation.
Yeah.
And what Jason did was accommodate student needs.
Right.
You don't have to chop your head off for that.
Oh, no. And again, understand, I did what I felt was best for every individual program. I mean, I really operated with that mindset is the automotive students needed this way. HVAC needed this way, welding needed this way. And so I was operating in kind of that world that I was looking for. How do I help students? But it did affect the standardization.
You have to decide which is more important in the long run. I mean, is it students' needs and accommodating students, or is it fitting a grid that? And the two, well, obviously, under your leadership will come to a meeting of the minds, and it'll be efficient and effective, and that's what you're looking for.
And how that report reflects that, that should be highlighted, particularly in this particular instance. So the report is valid, kind of, but has its own.
The data is valid.
My contacted Ad Astra says that very thing herself. She says the reason you have these meeting patterns is mostly because of health.
Which is a big program.
Yeah, right. And so what we have to do is to meet more regularly to figure out how we balance this. The Gen Ed folks don't really serve Jason.
Yeah.
They serve June. And then they serve themselves, right?
Sure.
And so we have to talk about how all that fits together.
Because this basically is data set. You're giving us numbers.
Right.
It's important, but it shouldn't drive our whole ship, right?
It's just
No, I know you aren't trying to do that.
Yeah. Another interesting from Havasu was, and I have these for all of the campuses, but for Havasu, 18% of the standard week that I mentioned earlier, the Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., 18% of the standard week is utilized at Havasu. That means darkness. 25% of prime time, that 8 to 12, 1 to 4, is utilized at Havasu. That means darkness. And 41% of the courses at Havasu are compressed into prime time.
I have a few questions, Madam Chair.
Sure.
And a request. I think I could probably be more engaged if I had these numbers.
I know, I'm sorry.
So,
We don't have the final report yet.
okay,
That's why you don't.
okay. It's okay.
We
It doesn't have to be
stole-
polished.
we
bullets
stole
with
these.
numbers.
Yeah, because they have numbers read off and keep trying to write them down,
Yeah.
try to absorb this.
So I had, I didn't write down my questions, so I'm gonna say the questions all at the same time. I wondered if you have data showing the modalities. So is it, to Dr. Singer's point, online, I mean, just, or hybrid or in-class physically? Like, do you have data on that?
No. They excluded courses that were synchronous courses, meaning Zoom. They were Zoom because they weren't really in a room.
So
But you have
this
data for fall
data,
23 though.
Yes.
That meets that.
Yes,
so everything you just shared with us is what is happening in a room?
in a room, or I have the asynchronous as well. I'm just not talking about them right now.
Okay. So, okay, then that answers my other question when you were talking about like Havasu campus specifically. I was going to ask, does that mean, that just means that campus, not
Classroom.
students or where those classes originated from or anything like that?
Right.
It's in the building?
Right.
Okay. Now I want you to say all the numbers again, but that's okay.
Actually, the easy thing, can't you mark the big red letters draft and get us a copy? It would really be helpful.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get the final like this next week. So if you're okay with getting the final.
Oh, sure.
You said it was
Well, because
short.
he can't give it, he's not gonna give it to you today at any kind of
I
draft.
mean, it's
so
just
what-
my notes on it.
Are you gonna
That's
study
what
them?
I'm saying. If we're coming up to having this thing
Yeah,
to
just one.
do on Tuesday,
I hope you're not gonna ask me any questions
you
about
know,
space.
that's right, but it would.
Classroom utilization.
Interesting.
Yeah, oh, it is, very interesting. And so we'll have this on the agenda again, once we have all the information again, right?
Right. Absolutely. So that we also are working, oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
How, at some point, I'd like to know how all this fits into the facilities master plan, because
That's exactly
that's
why
what
we're
we're
doing
doing.
this.
I knew that, I was.
Yeah, all this fits, all this connects, the academic master plan, the facilities master plan. Everything we're working on right now needs to converge. So if we build an, I'm making this up, this is not real for real. If we build a new classroom building, how many do we need? Right? If I am four.
Or if we look at the list of potential age facilities that they're recommending that we probably could tear down, let's say that's 15 classrooms. We don't need to come back with 15 classrooms, right? There's a way for us to, and that's what this data is really helping us.
Yep.
Right. And the other
Yeah, it all
Yeah, it's all
converges.
And the other thing to do to change our capacity ratio, that 62% is just less than the capacity in the system.
True, take out some chairs.
Well, that's really cheating.
That's what some students do. And that faculty lead that dialogue about my capacity should only be 18 in my classroom. And I'm not saying here, but generally that's what you'll see. So that shrinks down the capacity that you put in the system.
Yeah, NCTE, National Council for Teachers of English, says there should only be 18 chairs in my classroom, no more. Math is, I think you're 22, don't count, it might be lower now.
Yeah, you would.
That's the recommendation from those
Lower.
national councils,
What is our minimum for making a class?
9.
unless they needed to graduate.
It's kids.
It
It's
could be
9
one.
students per class to make, except we make lots of exceptions when we have students who need that one last class to graduate.
Or it's only it's out of rotation next time.
Gosh, Tim, I bet you didn't know when you were just gonna be talking about strategic plan goal 2, that you were gonna, but keep going, we're.
Yeah, just one more thing, and then I'll turn it over to Jason. For this upcoming fall, the deans have been working on modality, course length in terms of weeks, and also when it's scheduled. And so they're making some improvements. What's happening out there in the world of community colleges, and for example, I may have said this before, Odessa College, which is in Texas, Lakeshore Tech, which is in Wisconsin, they're all moving toward almost every course being 8 weeks. And some of them are even making them all competency-based. That's a whole other conversation we'll have another time. But one of the things that the deans have done for this upcoming fall is 20% of our course offerings are going to be 8-week sessions. Yeah, and so this helps with learning. It helps with retention. A student could take 2 and 2 rather than 4 16s. A student could help schedule their life around 8 and 8 easier than 16. And so Jason has always been 8 or less for almost everything.
So we're going actually almost 100% 8 weeks starting in the fall. Or smaller. So we actually go smaller than that too.
8, 5.
Yeah.
You have 8, 4 less than 4.
Yeah.
So your comment about competency-based, I know what
Just forget I said that.
Yeah.
Be prepared, because my life grew up in competency-based.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested in hearing where that's gonna go.
Yeah.
Particularly in light of what's happened over the last couple of years.
Yeah, we're a little behind for CBE.
Thank you.
So anyway, 20% of our courses this fall are 8 weeks or less. 10% are 12 weeks and 63% are 16 weeks. So over the next couple of years, we're shifting that, where CCRC, the Community College Research Center, says in order to make the impact you need to make, scaling is 80%. That's what scaling is defined as. Odessa's at 95%. Lakeshore Tech's at 90-ish%. And so we are at 20%. So over the next couple of years, in order to scale for impact, we need to move the needle. And so that's what the deans are working on. So I'll just stop there, see if there are any questions.
Scale for impact is scale the schedules for.
80% of your courses should be 8 weeks or less.
Okay.
So in my experience, students that are less academically prepared really struggle in an 8-week course. So we just have to figure out how we make sure we address their needs, because it wouldn't be appropriate to pass them along when they're not fully prepared. So just making that observation.
Yeah, I don't believe our transitional math and English faculty would be okay with 8 weeks or less, so.
So it's a splits and A/B kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. I do know that we're trying for the first time not for the first time, but again, this fall with some higher level math courses that are 8 weeks or less, not our developmental math course. We're not there yet. They're doing some other things with it.
Same with English. And those basic courses, basic fundamentals courses. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jason?
Okay.
Unless there are other questions about scheduling, and it's just a work in progress. Yeah, I know.
So here, let me blow your mind a little bit more. So Dr. Culver asked me to talk a little bit about virtual reality and augmented reality today. And so these are areas that I'm super excited about. We're definitely looking at scaling these concepts into the CTE programs particularly, but not necessarily solely into CTE, because we see some value in it in all of the areas. First off, I just want to mention kind of what is virtual reality versus what is augmented reality. So you're going to hear those two things, and some people use them interchangeably, but they're not actually the same thing. Virtual reality is taking you and injecting yourself into a digital space that's made up, all computer generated, right? So that's where you put on the big goggles and then you think like you're in a room and everybody gets to watch you wearing these goggles and you make all these funny motions, right? And you're seeing something completely different than everybody else is seeing. Augmented reality is taking our actual space and changing it and altering it in such a way that it's beneficial. So for example, 3D movies. A 3D movie is an augmented reality because you put on the little red blue glasses, right? And you watch the film and it looks like it's jumping out at you. That's the augmentation concept. And so we're looking to incorporate both virtual reality and augmented reality into some programs. Now, we're already doing virtual reality. We've been doing virtual reality for 6-7 years in welding. I don't know if you remember the big giant box with the glass, the welding helmet, and seeing that, okay? That's gotten a whole lot smaller. There's a suitcase that's about the size of my pad here that now has a smartphone, literally a smartphone, connected to a welding torch where we can practice virtually. We can see a weld on the screen. And it just goes like this. And we don't need that big box anymore. And so virtual reality is starting to get smaller. But to go along with that, we also have very interesting cloud-based systems that are going directly into these goggles that they're creating. I don't know if you've heard of an Oculus, but that's one of the company, Meta or Facebook makes that particular product. And so the computer is in the goggles and you can connect that to a television screen or something like that. So the audience can be watching what you're doing while you're having this experience in this virtual world. And we're going to be doing that specifically in HVAC here in the upcoming, for the upcoming fall. We're going to be piloting VR at this level. And the reason for HVAC is we have a system or a company that it provides over 30 different pieces of equipment in a virtual space. So if you can imagine us having to buy 30 different HVAC units or buying one $300 set of goggles and paying for this subscription, which one are we going to do, right? Of course, we're not going to eliminate the hands-on component of actually turning the wrench, but when they get into that space, they actually see the unit, they actually see the components, they actually have a wrench and a hand that's in there still, then they go through the motions of making that repair or doing that diagnosis, and they can troubleshoot, they can diagnose, they can change a part out, they take the part out, they put in a new part, they do all of that within that virtual space. And that allows us, again, that huge assortment of equipment opportunity. Because if you think about a new technician, and it's ironic because I spent 3 days this week without AC. And so I was thinking to myself, how does the AC tech, when he gets to my house, he's never been to my house before, how does he fix it? How does he know my system, right? Because it's not like, the company doesn't necessarily have a history of working on my system. They didn't put it in. It was a different company that installed it, right? So they go in and he did his work and he went from place to place and he had it all figured out. And I thought, oh, wow, that's awesome. But imagine if you're a brand new technician and you've already done repairs on over 30 different types of units, as well as the hands-on units that we actually have in the lab, right? So they actually have turned the wrench. They've actually recovered the refrigerant so that they're not losing it into the atmosphere and having the EPA hate us, right? I mean, all of those things can happen in that virtual space. the augmented reality, we're also going to be doing in HVAC, but we're also going to be doing that in auto service. Now, the reason I'm going to talk a little bit about augmented reality for HVAC. The great thing about augmented reality now is you can take a component like an air conditioning unit and you can strip the skin off of that. And then you can see inside of each of these parts. So you all know that a compressor is in a HVAC unit, right? You can literally take the shell off of that and you can see all of the inner parts and how they move and how they function. And you can see if something's going to break, they can show you how it's going to break. And you can, like I said, you can literally see that sitting at a laptop without the glasses anymore, even because the technology is such that they use multiple cameras to track your eyes and create the image, the 3D image that literally pops out of the screen of the laptop. Now, it's not just any old laptop. This is a specially made laptop. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not quite to that yet. So the laptop itself is a little bit expensive. And so when I say a little bit, it's a lot expensive, but we're not going to get 50 of them, right? We're going to have 1 or 2 for students to use. And it helps them to more fully understand the parts. In the automotive program, you take the top of the car off and you see all of the different systems and you can highlight the different systems. You can show where the braking system is. You can show where the electrical system is, where the internal combustion engine and all of its parts, the exhaust system, and it can highlight each of those by, again, they use a little stylus just like this, and they reach into this 3D image and they point at the thing that they want. And like if, let's say they're just picking the engine and say this is the engine suspended out in space, they hit that, and then they have some options and they select that option to take the skin off, and then you can see those pistons driving up and down. And again, literally, you don't even have to have glasses in this augmented reality. And that's what's so exciting is that now they're not just fixing the car. They can literally see inside of the pieces of the vehicle and understand how it's all functioning. And that makes technicians so much stronger when they're not just parts changers. They know the why behind that. And so these are the 2 programs that we're going to be piloting in. Like I said, HVAC is going to be doing both virtual and augmented reality, and then auto is going to be doing augmented. Now, we hope to, include more and more. The Z-Space company that eventually you'll hear about, and we'll make sure we get you so you can see some of this as well. They have programs in biology. So like you can have a human heart, beating human heart, and again, take the skin off and see all the valve work inside of this. I mean, that sounds gross, but it really is awesome. I mean, if you think about understanding how the valves function in your heart to pump the blood through your system, or your lungs, watching them contract and expand and seeing how the alveoli inside of your lungs function. And so biology, anatomy and physiology, the muscles, the bones, all of this is right there in this Z-Space. And you buy a single unit and then you buy subscriptions for these different software packages for the different areas. Some disadvantages, and I always talk about the positives, right? But I want you to know I do think about the other stuff too. Obviously, when you got goggles on, you got to create a safe space. So we're talking about a 10-foot by 10-foot space, and some people can potentially become disoriented in that virtual world. David Bricky, our HVAC instructor, tried it out at the HVAC Excellence maybe you went to a concert too, but the conference in Las Vegas. And it was funny because he reached out to lean on the house in the virtual world, right? There's no house there. And so he about fell down because he saw the house and he just reached up, just out of human nature to get himself up out of the crouched position. So you have to be careful and you have to watch. And you shouldn't do this by yourself because also like epileptics, if you have that that repeated flashing, right? That can trigger a seizure. And so we have to be careful in that way. Also, another disadvantage of augmented reality is, Dr. Jackson, Tanya Jackson, she's blind in one eye. And so the 3D effect doesn't work on her in the augmented space. Now, that's a disappointment, so it's not as fun, but she can still see the flat view of that same thing going on. But we have to be sure that there are other opportunities. Again, thinking about universal design in terms of curriculum development, right? So that if someone can't do the virtual because of some kind of health condition, or again, I get vertigo. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I get in there, I'm like, whoa, okay, all right. If someone's like that, we need to have alternative means to make sure that these things can be taught to everybody. Because again, that universal design is super important. And it goes right back to that discussion that we're not talking about in terms of competency-based understandings, right? I'm all about competency-based, knowledge, skill, and ability, because that's what makes technicians, welders, culinarians, if they can't do these things, we don't want to put our name on these students. We don't want our name going out to people who can't do the work. So anyway, that's really the essence of the VR and AR, and just want to answer any questions that you have related to that.
I want to know time and date for our first trip through augmented reality.
Oh, okay. Fall semester. We will have it ready to go fall.
I'll do a washer, dryer, any of that stuff. Not enough.
This is so cool. It's so sexy. What we're doing, how does it compare to what other community colleges are doing in Arizona? Because this sounds really slick. Are we on cutting edge, or are we doing what everyone else is doing? I'm just curious.
I meet with the people of my position with all of the community colleges. We're probably more aggressively pursuing it than most. Maricopa's a little ahead of us. They just give them more money than us. I mean, ultimately, but the reality is this changes the game for us. And this is one of the things that, honestly, when all of this talk about scheduling and everything, my goal and my life's pursuit, to be honest with you, is to bring us up. I feel like we at MCC have been a little bit behind, and it's time for us to get caught up. Z-Space has been around since 2017. So it's not brand new by any means. Virtual reality has been around since the late 80s. They weren't able to make it function, right? But as the computer power has increased, our abilities to create better virtual spaces has become more and more powerful. And so it makes complete sense. Nationally, there are huge companies that are going to virtual reality training because we as community colleges have not been supplying them with enough material, with enough qualified technicians. And so this is an opportunity for us to become even more relevant, to be more helpful to our community. And again, like you said, step us up. This does bring us up.
This is good stuff. Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Just to back up and help answer the question a little bit as well for Trustee Singer. There was about 5 months ago, I participated with 40-something other community college presidents, and we all joined into a virtual reality. So we were able to see what it looked like. Of those, I think after that, about 3 or 4 community colleges immediately worked on a contract with this company. Yavapai College is one. The Yavapai College is probably a step ahead because then they rallied the faculty around and the right people to talk about universal design and all of those things. We're in that next step of that movement. But I'll tell you, it was pretty unreal to be in the midst of that VR and be able to step inside a heart, to be able to be in a brain biology type class in the bottom of the ocean and being able to identify things and move things and be in the midst of it all. It was pretty amazing.
It is.
So I think we're we're close. A lot of colleges and universities, there's some good examples the last 3 years that are leading the way, that are providing webinars and all that, so we can participate and hear all the goods and the bads, what you have to pay attention to. So those would be the next steps for us.
We become diagnosticians as opposed to repair.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
That's where it's cool.
Yes, and diagnostics. I don't know how many times I have heard that term. I mean, again, it's like one of those things that drones in the back of my head. We don't become just parts changers. We become diagnosticians, and that's really what makes the solid auto tech, the HVAC technician, the welder, the fabricator, all of it. If they can diagnose a problem, they're going to be far more valuable to every company that they work for.
And Ashley, did you have a comment or question?
I do, thank you. I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Could this be an opportunity for students to not have to travel to a campus? So I'm thinking, like, is there a self-scheduled lab opportunity where a student could come in, put the things on, select the module they need to do?
Mm-hmm.
That's somehow recorded, sent to the faculty that, so that they can go to any campus and check into this kind of lab and do what they need to do.
So, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
So we are piloting these augmented reality and virtual reality programs with Jason this year. We've already met to discuss developing lab space on each campus to have an augmented reality, virtual reality lab that will serve not only CTE, but also health programs who also have looked at it, as well as STEM. In any other place, so that students can just show up at their closest lab and participate in learning opportunities there. So that is phase 2.5, maybe.
And as we move towards CBE, as we move toward more CBE, and we'll be able to have direct assessment.
Okay. And then how does that tie into the Advanced Manufacturing Training Center?
So we intend to have all different sorts of VR, AR opportunities within the training of the advanced manufacturing. So mechanical, electrical, again, HVAC, electromechanical, hydraulics, pneumatics, all of these things that we're going to be training have AR, VR, or both components. And so we're going to have this same kind of a space built into that manufacturing training center, so that whether a person, again, is doing the online, theoretical work, or the virtual work, or the hands-on work, again, that universal design, they're getting whole brain learning in every way that we can conceive of. That's what the ultimate goal is here. And so it fits right into the system.
And Ashley, did you have something else?
I do, thank you. How widely accepted is this by the various industries?
So the industries want either industry credentials or our credentials, regardless, right? They are not going to say this is a replacement for actually turning a wrench. They're not going to say that. If you go into some of the places in the East where it's more developed than what we have right now, they are accepting people into training programs that are 100% virtual. And there's what's called NIMS, and I think I've talked about that in front of the group before, that it's the National Institute of Metalworking Skills. This is a big organization. Our industrial maintenance programming that we're going to be doing at the AMTC is NIMS. That's going to be the focus. And they are working with companies in the East to build virtual programming. But again, most companies, if they accept someone who's been trained 100% virtually, guess what? They're going to sit in a training environment and they're going to be doing hands-on. So we're going to make sure that we don't ever replace 100% virtually the hands-on component, because there's just something about understanding that if you mess around with refrigerant, your hands are going to get frostbitten. And then, you know, and putting on the gloves and actually going through that process that people need to know. Again, you can virtually weld all day, but until you actually have that welder and you have that pool of molten metal sitting in front of you, it's just not the same. And so companies do accept it, but I have never seen anyone say, yeah, if you go through this virtual training 100%, we'll take you and you're awesome. And so, yeah, we're not there yet. This is about enhancement and support of learning. It is not about replacing, displacing the hands-on experience.
Supplementing, not supplanting.
Yeah.
My final question
Sure.
is how accepted is this by the, I just lost my word, certification?
Like American Welding Society, or are you talking?
Will this align with the requirements for people to be certified in?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And again, we don't use it to replace. That's not the way that I think about it. But companies are saying, if you have this kind of training, and like one of the companies we're working with in terms of all of this AMTC work is Intelitech. So they have crosswalked all of their training modules with NIMS. And so if they complete these X number of modules, they get the NIMS certification at the end of that. And that NIMS certification is it's not a free pass into a job, but it's a step into the door. You're recognized. American Welding Society is the same thing. If you go and test and you get your qualification in a particular process, right? That doesn't guarantee you a job, it guarantees you an interview.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the requirements that they'll need for, and I'm actually thinking of how it's still, I can't understand why our dental hygiene students are having to recruit volunteer patients with specific oral health conditions, like that kind of, can we get somewhere along to something more?
You know what, maybe June can talk a little more about how it's going to be seen in the health professions world.
Yeah.
I can't speak to that. But I know that when Tracy Giff sat into the Z-Space augmented reality demo that we saw, she loved it. She loved the concept.
It's very cool. I'm just wondering how much.
The organizations, the private organizations, the accrediting bodies are a little slow to accept it 100%. But again, during COVID, they made huge steps in this direction. And so we just need to continue to put, in my opinion, put the pressure on them to, as the technology and the programming improves, we have to continue to put the pressure on them to say, this is that same level of quality, but it's got to be true, right? I mean, I don't want nurses who don't know how to actually work with patients because they've only worked in a virtual world, right? I mean, that would make me a little nervous.
Well, we thank you for your, please.
That discussion is leading me to the thought of critical thinking. And here you've done all of this virtual training. You're based with opening up a HVAC unit and nuts are frozen. They're not frozen usually in virtual. You need to start to now think critically, what do I do in this reality or something in the healthcare line?
Yep.
So that's really an important component too, to make sure that we keep on talking about critical thinking skills and what you need to think about while you're doing this and what if something happens.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And one of the nice things about most of these companies that are creating these VR and AR platforms is they want our input. So when something isn't realistic, they want us to tell them that it's not realistic or it's not practical or whatever. An example of that is, again, with the HVAC VR, at one point they had created a simulation exercise. And you had to take off a particular bolt that was back in the back, and they were saying take it off with a wrench. You can't get a wrench back there. There's no way to get a wrench back there. And so there had to be some other tool. And so David Bricky, our instructor, said, that can't be done. You know, he was doing it, you know, and because in the virtual world, you just kind of pretend, right? But in the reality, he just said, in a real world, that can be done. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, you can't get back there. There's no way to get back there on this unit. And they're like, oh. So they went back to the drawing board and changed it. And that's one of those ways that the software tech companies, us and the industry partners can work together to make it better and better and better to reach that point where Ashley is asking, can we get to that point where literally it can all be done in a virtual, you know, situation?
Well, Jason, this has been enlightening, and I'm glad there's a lot of enthusiasm for it, and that you see a balance in it. That's always important.
Absolutely.
And this all fits under our strategic plan goal 2, objective 2.4. And we seem to be doing that, and you brought us up to date with the action plans currently being developed and scheduling. Thank you. Anything else?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Jason and Tim as well for providing updates. Just a couple updates before we move on to the employee compensation package. Just wanted to share a few legislative items with you. Senate Bill 1400, which is dealing with non-credit, measuring non-credit as calculating for FTSE in our expenditure limitation, is moving forward relatively well. There has been a few amendments attached into it, but I know the last communications I had with our local legislators, they were still very supportive of it. Again, that would help us count non-credit specific career and technical trainings that match up with the ETPL, which is the educational training
provider list.
Provider list, thank you, that Arizona at Work and others use. If we can show various students and seat time and contact hours throughout the year, we can actually calculate that into a FTSE that can go towards and help us out with our expenditure limitation. They were trying to get it where it would also count towards annual state funding. As you know, FTSE counts into certain funding from the state. So that doesn't look like it's happening in that direction. It's really purely about an EL issue. But we are monitoring that and following that, but it has received strong bipartisan support both in the House and the Senate. So we'll continue to monitor that. There's some work that has been done over the last couple months on the direction of the expenditure limitation and which way the community colleges should move in order to make what we would consider the large scale change that probably should be as part of the current EL model, massive statewide or massive change into the formula itself in the base year. One of the things that we are working on is exploring whether or not we would have legislative support to bring forth a legislative ballot initiative for November of 2024. Part of that would be rework the formula and then also include it in base year, not 1979, but you know, what is that base year, 2017, 2015, whatever. And also what is the formula? What should be included and excluded within that formula? If that doesn't fly, we have been exploring the potential and costs associated with the voter ballot initiative, which would be a statewide. Of course, as you all know, that takes a lot of time and energy and potential money from that. And Maricopa's needs, they feel like they want to go one way or another, that they're going to need to because they're on the cusp of and already are hitting expenditure limitation concerns. The other one too is we have a meeting this up next Wednesday. There's 4 of us college presidents that are meeting with K-12 folks about their expenditure limitation. And they are looking also at a larger scale potential initiative. So do we join up on a larger ballot initiative? There's a lot of dialogue that has to happen there. That does start next week. Going into next legislative session, some items we did agree upon that we want to go back to the legislature to make change is the current technical weight. So instead of 1.3, we want to try to get to 1.6 or 2.0 the weight score. And also exclusions related to STEM funding, to career and technical expenses, tech expenses, and so forth. So when we talk IT, those expenses can be pulled out. STEM-related expenses, those items can be pulled out, and/or state funding. So there's some work that we're planning on developing in the off legislative time, trying to gain support of certain legislators to bring those bills forward. There's still a lot of conversation to have on that, but at least right now, those are the two that we have all agreed upon that moving into next year, we would like to move forward. The CBOs across the state, so thanks to both Jenny and Linda who participate in those, have really done a lot of analysis, and we'll be reviewing that analysis next week as well. So just a couple larger legislative items. It takes a little bit of time and energy, a lot of calls and all that stuff, and a lot of figures as well. So thanks to that. Wanted to let you know that if you haven't read in the paper, but the city did approve last week to sell the property to us at the industrial park, and the funding has been submitted and they have accepted. So we are working on the final deed and receiving the deed on that property. Peach Springs, we had a great, thanks to Candida yesterday, or what's today? Wednesday, Friday? Yeah, Wednesday. Thank you, Candida, for being there at Peach Springs with our business incubator space. And we had it's not a groundbreaking, but a ribbon cutting. And so we had Chairwoman Sherry Parker was able to speak on behalf of the Tribal Council. Candida was there on behalf of the board. I was there, Travis Lingenfelter. Really a good turnout. And Manny Tapija is, no, I'm sorry. Sayeji. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking Tapija. He has really done a lot of work already with 4 or 5 different individuals, potential companies, and doing that business incubation and drawing up the plans and all of that. So excited for that. So thank you very much, Candida, for being there. Next week, AC4, we already talked about that. The HLC and AAC conferences that we had kept us a little busy there for a while. During the AAC conference, as I mentioned earlier, we did provide a presentation called the Strategic Plan and Enrollment, One College's Post-Secondary Story. And we talked about AOI development, the Academic Master Plan, but most of it moved into the non-credit movement. And what's that looking like and how that's changing our look as a student. It was a full room. We had some great folks come up and talk to us afterwards. They're in the infancy stage of moving in that direction. So I thought that was well received. Earlier, I think it was last week, Amy sent out a list of all the upcoming fun events. It's the end of the year. And so as you probably saw, I think it was a page and a half. I have it printed off here. It was quite a lengthy page or information in regards to upcoming pinning ceremonies, student recognition ceremonies, all of that. So if you don't have it, or if you haven't had a chance and you still want to participate, get a hold of us. And we'd like to provide you an update on all of those times. Also, tomorrow down in Bullhead is the Food Truck Frenzy, sponsored by the Bullhead Foundation chapter. So thanks for that. It's almost a full day event, goes into the evening with live music as well. So, And then there are 2 upcoming Booster Club, Athletic Booster Club events, the golf tournaments, one in Bullhead, and then in May. Bullhead is April 21st and 22nd. Then in Kingman, it's May 20th, 21st, right around there. So those 2, plus there's a bingo night coming up that they're doing to raise funds as well. So they're keeping active in that regard. And Lake Havasu actually is developing a few plans through Mud Shark, doing some, I want to say, Sloppy Joe and Music Festival.
That's fun.
And plus they have another golf tournament being planned down on Lake Havasu. So a lot of activity there. Madam Chair, that concludes. I'll stand for any questions before moving on to the employee comp package.
Comprehensive, thank you. Anita would be typing in questions if she had them, I guess, right? Okay. Amy, just one thing, we did get that update, and thank you for the calendar, but it said draft or potential or something. As things are added, will you maybe send out an update on, thank you. All right, I think I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and you can continue without me, or you can take a break. We'll be back, it's 10:28, so let's say 10:35. 7 minutes, thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Well, I'll try and tone it down.
So I said yes to you, Dr. Cohen, but actually. Well, because. All right. Should I go ahead and, well, we'll wait till they reconvene and then we'll share screen and present.
So, I mean, it's a lot of this is
Long topic. So there's full meeting.
Is it a card?
Isn't there like a plan for every day?
That's what I was thinking to Carol about, is that this is the dumb kid stuff. Kids. And then you grow up and you're like, how do you?
Right, email.
I think this is also leisure today. They don't really don't got it, except for.
I'm going to pick something up. There's a muscle right that's your key. Craziness. That's what I'm gonna cry. He just did. I know. Weird. It is weird.
Is your back out?
Yeah. Oh, could be, yeah, actually, yeah, kids can kind of just.
So, yeah.
Oops, oh boy. Tell you.
She gave her the students the morning or day off, whatever they need.
There you go. Touchdown.
Yeah. I'm gonna go over there after this anyway, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I hate what's happening.
Yeah, it's,
What is math?
I know.
Oh, do you take up too much time of your agenda? Yes, yes.
Have you never taken? No, I'll wait. I left my brace house.
I know. But he's so cute.
anyway. So talking about me like that?
Yeah, I was going yesterday. Yeah. I saw it this morning and I was prepping for the meeting.
That's all right.
You know how you do.
Monday's fine.
Yeah.
He's talking.
But good stuff, right? Like, how do you?
Talking to a phone like that.
I'm like, Lana, I can't figure this out. Help me out with some math. I'm like, I should put all this math problem together. I'm like, stop it.
Equation type stuff or just adding numbers up?
17 months out of 18
Hold on.
equals 17. Right, 0.944.
I hate word problems.
It's those types of things.
Yeah.
It must be all the time.
I can do it if I really concentrate and I pull it up in the calculator and divide
Like math.
and multiply.
Feel like you're doing
all that
better,
good
huh?
stuff.
Yeah, I'm not actually doing better.
When you make some word problem, you can stop it.
So when you do these requisitions,
Right.
you have to break them down into percentages. And I'm not the greatest at percentages these days. Try it the other way, because I didn't have it.
I have no clue where it's here.
These different reports all over the place.
Yeah, they see through. Freshman girl.
No, I don't think it.
Who knows? Yeah. I got this on the brain right now. I already have that on. I think they're talking about there it is.
So Jeannie, you probably do some of
What is
that.
that thing called? Esports. Thank you.
Because when you just actually do my two flies, the whole thing, they get e-machine. Bring it.
I mean, a really well tasking. And
What is that?
easy asking.
You.
I'll answer it.
Okay.
And I have to retype everything.
Thanks, Erica.
And there was. Yes, I will get you on there. Let me figure this out real quick. I got a
Thank you.
requisition that I'm trying to figure out first. Because if I didn't say she'd be here, if you want to speak with her. As soon as we finish this. 3:30, or something. Things that like anything, I won't shoot my words.
Sad.
All right, 10:56. Reflection on the clock shows me it's 10:36, but I'm gonna say it's 10:35, but just 10:37 now, yeah. All right, moving on. Dr. Cade, item E.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, over this past week during our review sessions, we've had the opportunity to hear Jennifer Picard present this item, or at least share with you and then answer questions, and then received other questions afterwards and hopefully was able to answer questions, but also be able to make some changes, necessary changes based on the conversations. And she's here today to present our final iteration of our comp plan. So I will pass it off to Jennifer Picard.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, I'm so thrilled to be here today to share this proposal with you, our compensation plan for the 23-24 fiscal year. As you know, here at MCC, we follow a sustainable budget module, which means that we have a set amount of our budget dedicated to compensation and employment costs, and the rest goes to the other important stuff that we do here at MCC. Within that portion of the budget that's dedicated to compensation, it is split between salaries and benefits, and salaries does make up the majority of that cost. This is an overview of our health insurance premium history over the last several years. You can see at one point in time, we paid $550 per month for employee-only coverage. And with the health insurance increase that we've received from our provider, this coming year will be at $965 per individual. Another portion of our benefits package includes the Arizona State Retirement System, and the contribution rate is set by the state each year. So this shows the history of the last couple of years for that. We are going to see a slight increase in the contribution rate starting July 1st up to about 12.29%. That is a contribution that the employee makes as well as the employer towards their pension and long-term disability. So this is a comparison of our compensation and benefits packages for this current year that we're in and 3 prior years, just giving you an overview of the health insurance increases we saw from our provider, as well as the compensation that we had issued to employees each of those years and the total cost associated. Our strategic focus and budgeting philosophy supports attracting, developing, and retaining an exemplary workforce. We all know we've got great folks here already, and we want to keep them. Part of how we do that is we develop and provide training and professional development opportunities for our employees. I feel like we've really made great strides in this area. We brought in the NeoGov platform with its Learn module over this last year, which has professional development opportunities for the employees. Our employee learning and development manager has been key in that. And then as well as the CTL, the Center for Teaching and Learning, and all of the great stuff they provide for our faculty. And so we have really provided robust offerings for our employees. And we heard in the employee engagement survey, the feedback from employees that they're recognizing that these opportunities are available. And those opportunities directly relate to the retention of keeping our employees here. As well as if we have these great offerings for our employees, these opportunities for development, and a good compensation and benefits package that helps us on the entry side of attracting that quality workforce. So all key components to keeping the excellent folks we have and continuing to add to that. What we are moving towards is a slight shift in our compensation strategy, and this is giving us a model to follow that's consistent year over year. And so creating an alternating compensation structure which would equitably address the needs of our different earners. When we do a flat rate increase, then that has a greater impact for the entry-level employees, the lower wage earners. When we offer a percentage rate increase to salaries, that has a greater impact for our more seasoned employees, the ones who are a little further up the pay scale. And so what we'd like to do is move to an alternating model. So in 1 year, we'll offer a flat rate increase, the next year it would be a percentage, and then we go back to the flat rate. In addition, this is a simple way for us to be able to continue to look at entry point of our pay scales, which is what we use to place new hires when we bring them in. And so we want to make sure that we're continuing to look at that entry point so that our wages remain competitive. And so on a flat rate year, we will then be able to very easily take a portion of the flat rate that goes to employees and apply it to the entry point to keep our wages for new earners consistently moving competitively. But we will make sure that when we apply that, that we are not setting up a model that allows a new hire to hopscotch over an existing employee. That's very important that our existing employees have the experience with us and that a new hire with comparable education and experience would not be hired at a higher level. So rest assured that's something that is being considered and will be part of the plan. So when we talk about insurance here at MCC, MCC fully subsidizes the cost of employee-only dental and vision coverage and subsidizes most of the cost of the employee-only health coverage on our base plan. You know, we offer 3 plans to employees. The greatest subsidy then is applied to the base plan. So under our current benefits cost model, employees are paying $15 per month for that employee-only coverage on the base plan, which works out to be about 1% of the premium that MCC is charged by our provider. Over the last 3 years, MCC has chosen to absorb the cost of the health insurance increase that we've received from our provider. This year, our health insurance increase will be a 6% rate increase. And so looking into the future and continuing to stay current with what is being provided by our provider and make sure that we have a sustainable model for health insurance costs and balancing that with compensation, we are moving to a cost-sharing model for the health insurance premium, which ties the employee's portion of their employee-only coverage on that base plan directly to the premium that we are charged by the provider. This makes it very simple for us to be able to explain to employees how their premium is designed, and it also being tied directly to the premium means that we are alleviating a future need to potentially come to employees and ask for a large increase in contributions because we have reached a point where it's no longer sustainable for us to only charge them $15 per month for coverage. I want to avoid us finding ourselves in a position where we keep it flat at $15 per month for 10 years. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a place where in order to continue offering competitive wages to our employees, we then have to ask them to pick up more of the benefit, and that's a larger increase for them to absorb. So by making this move now and tying it directly to the premium, then each year we will be able to reflect based on what the provider is charging us and very transparently share that information with the employees, and they can see directly where their premium cost is coming from. And so we are looking at a cost sharing model of 3% of that base plan cost then. So that means MCC is picking up 97% of the cost still, which is still a very large component of that. So we're offering a great benefit to our employees while also creating a plan that's a little bit more sustainable. I know there's a lot of information on this slide, so I'm going to take this in sections. So the compensation proposal for 23-24 would be a flat rate year because we did a percentage increase last year. So a $2,500 flat rate annual increase for our employees in the faculty, professional staff, professional manager, executive director, and administration pay scales, and a corresponding $1.20 per hour increase for the employees who are in our support or non-exempt pay schedule. And then what we have discovered, what we're seeing over these last couple of years is as the state continues to raise the minimum wage and we have adjusted the support position entry wages to stay ahead of minimum wage, we are creating compression between those non-exempt schedules and our entry-level professional schedules. And so there's not a very large gap to move from a support position into a professional position here. And as we are continuing to develop our employees and looking at growing our own internal talent force, that smaller gap means there's less incentive for an employee to move from a non-exempt position into that professional level position. And so that second bullet is talking about adding in an additional $1,000 compression adjustment to employees who are in that professional staff schedule. And so that will create a little bit more of that space in between the non-exempt and the entry-level professional positions, and hopefully continue to incentivize our internal employees to move up into our professional level positions and grow within our organization. This is year 2 of the 2-year process to adjust adjunct faculty load. And so we are increasing them $40 per load hour, takes that rate to $820 per load hour then. And then, as I mentioned, we would use a flat year to increase the entry point on our pay scales. So these next 3 bullet items are not compensation that's going directly to employees. This is only affecting the pay schedules to make sure that that entry point remains in a competitive spot. And again, that entry point is not moving up to the point of a new hire being able to be placed higher than a comparable existing employee. And then we are implementing that cost sharing model for the health insurance. So taking all of that into account, this is a picture of the costs associated then. So the benefits increase with the 6% received from our health insurance provider, coupled with the new cost sharing model. The cost to MCC for the benefit increase is just over $113,000 for the next year. The salary increase would be just over $635,000. So we've got a total cost for this package of just under $750,000 for the year. I am happy to take questions.
Thank you for the nice report. Questions?
I have several of them. When Jennifer and I talked, we talked about, particularly me being really unsure, you had a much better term, conflicted about some of this. And it's not personal, but it's personal for me as I look out into the community and see what's happening and think about support staff, hourly wage people versus administrators and the different, obviously, income levels and stressors they're seeing in this particular world right now, where eggs cost, what, $7.99 the last time I saw a dozen eggs, which used to be our chief function, right? Anyhow, the $1,000 individual compression adjustment, how many individuals would that impact?
So we have 66 employees whose positions fall in that professional staff. And so for an example, those positions, examples of those would be our recruiters, an HR generalist, academic advisors, IT network administrator, system administrator. Those are all typical positions that fall within that professional. So these are exempt positions, but they don't manage people. So that's the distinction between them.
Salaried, not hourly.
They are salaried, but they don't manage people. Yes.
Okay. And then the other question I had was when I was flipping through the support schedule and I was looking at, I guess it was the construction salary schedule. Yep, I'm getting down to it. We're looking at the trades.
Yeah.
The minimum wages for culinary, welding, HVAC, automotive are all significantly higher than the construction trades. And I wondered why. I mean, obviously it's as needed in the community, and they're going to be requiring different but similar competencies. for their trades. Why is there a, $7,000 to $15,000 difference in minimum hires?
Excellent question. So all of our salary schedules are designed to not directly reflect the industry, because we know that our welder is not necessarily going to make the same out in the field as they would being a welding educator, but to reflect the differences in those industries and the qualifications that are needed to be an instructor in those, the education, the experience, everything that they bring to the picture. And so that's why we have the different levels of those to be able to distinguish between the different faculty and their expertise. And, those are things, especially within the trades and the health professions, I think as the world continues to evolve, we are very conscious of, are we remaining competitive in those wages? And those are things that we will continually monitor to make sure that we can remain competitive with the wages that we offer our faculty.
And the carpentry is a non-credit, non-faculty member. I think it's listed as I almost said facilitator, but I know that's not right. It's instruction.
It is a non-credit full-time instructor.
Right.
Yes.
Not a faculty member.
Not a
Okay.
faculty member.
Okay, so that would be the big answer to that. Okay. And then,
Oh.
Did you say, are you thinking before I'm thinking? The impact of the cost share on hourly wage earners. They're going from $15 per month, the basic plan.
Yes.
Now we're talking 3%. When you look at the numbers, and I spent a lot of time playing with minimum and maximum numbers, hourly wages over the entire year, a little bit more of an increase than administrative.
Yes.
And the salary levels, obviously, of administrative are significantly higher.
Yes.
So what is the impact of the cost share? I mean, if you take 3% of a $40,000 a year job versus 3% of a $100,000 job, it's significantly different.
Yes.
So-
And so perhaps I can help put some perspective on this. So we know that our entry-level hourly wage positions start at $15 per hour. And so that's approximately $30,000 per year for that individual. And so a $2,500 pay increase is about an 8% pay increase for that individual. And so they're getting an increase of $2,500 over the year. The health insurance increase that we're looking at right now, their contribution would go from $15 per month to $27 per month. So an additional 12 times 12 months is, $144 extra that we're having them contribute towards the insurance, offset by a $2,500 salary increase. Now, on the flip side, when you look at a higher wage earner, say someone who makes $120,000 per year, a $2,500 increase is a 2% pay increase. And so I hope that provides some perspective.
The same amount from the 15 to 27.
Yes.
There's a 3% share, so it's still 144.
The cost share is a percentage of their premium, not a percentage of their income.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
That was, that was missing. Okay, because part of what really was working in my head in the, 2 days since we had a conversation was, I happened to look at this living wage calculation from Mohave County. And it creates a conflict for me in that we're talking about training and growing our hourly staff and asking or hoping that they'll move into more professional positions. But it's kind of scary when you look at what a poverty level is and what a living wage is. And we're talking for a single person with no children, they need $33,345 a year just for typical expenses. And, 2 children, $83,491. it's frightening to think of what the majority of the people who live in Mohave County deal with on a daily basis right now. So, I lean back and forth and say, yeah, everybody's done a really good job and everybody should have the same. We get into the equity thing. And yet we're trying to support and grow and encourage people to come here and increase the standard of living. And yet we're being equal rather than looking and saying, okay, what percentage of our employees are in this below poverty or, not really a living wage yet versus our administrators who do a great job and deserve what they get. But there's a huge difference in the levels of income. And that's what my struggle has been the last day and a half.
Yep. So I do have perhaps some more information that would be helpful as well. While we say the entry pay is $15 per hour, we also, when an employee joins us, we give them a higher salary based on education and experience that they bring to the position. So when we look at our support population of employees, the average wage of the individuals in there is $18.50 per hour. So it's not all of our employees are making $15 per hour. It depends on education experience and the level of the position. So, yes, we do have employees who are in that entry level and they've come to us and we're giving them the experience so they can continue to grow. But it's not all of our employees in that support that are in that position.
Okay.
Other questions, Ashley, did you have some questions?
I do, thank you. I think I'll start kind of there. And because when an employer makes the decision to subsidize at such so heavily as MCC has for health insurance, and knowing about the retirement system, those are big contributors to someone's living wage, even though it's not reported as a wage. And so when you're trying to be competitive in the market and you're advertising a wage, it's difficult to also advertise the other benefits that go along with that. Mm-hmm. So I am in support of shifting to a cost sharing model for the health insurance, even though I think the 3% rate is also really, hopefully people will see that as a big benefit, because it allows more of a focus to shift to salaries and wages. So just a comment and another comment. Your presentations, I should say, are always very informational, well articulated, concise, just enough to not have too many questions afterwards anyway. So thank you for that, because this is complicated stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a question on the health insurance benefits. Which employees are eligible?
So our employees are eligible in a full-time role. So we have just a couple different types of positions. So there are positions that are scheduled and designed to work 19 and a half hours or less per week. Those part-time positions, those do not participate in the Arizona State Retirement System because Arizona State Retirement System requires 20 hours or more per week for 20 or more weeks in the year to participate in that system. So we have that category of part-time employees. And then we have another category of part-time employees who work up to 25 hours per week. Typically 20 to 25 is the expectation. And so those positions do participate in the Arizona State Retirement System, but they don't qualify for any of the medical, dental, vision benefits. And then the rest of our positions are full-time 40 hours per week. We don't have anything in between that 25 and 40 hours per week at this point. So those 40-hour per week positions are the ones that are eligible for the medical dental vision package.
And if I might add, under the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, any employee that works 30 or more hours per week for the majority of the look-back, 12-month look-back period is eligible for insurance. And Jennifer might know the numbers better, but we have very few part-time positions at this point. We have over the last several years worked at consolidating 2 part-times into a full-time so that we're able to offer more people the full benefit package. There are just some areas where we can't get away from a part-time position. And so we have like, I would say less than 25 around there, part-time positions college-wide.
Do they have an option to buy into the college's insurance plans?
They do not.
No,
No, and because the position structure is the way it is, they don't qualify for it. And the cost for, $965 per employee cost to MCC. And we're charging the employee $27 per month for a part-time individual.
One more question on insurance is, that's only, I understand that it's only for the actual employee. So for those staff who have, dependents and want to purchase, need the family plan, does the college subsidize any of that, right?
So the college does not.
Okay.
We did move this year, so I've been remiss. I should take a step back and acknowledge some folks who helped get us to where we are right now. We have the employee compensation team that was created a couple years ago, 8 volunteers from the 4 different pay grades that spend a year dedicated to researching and coming up with suggestions for compensation and benefits. And they've been instrumental in coming up with some of these things that have gotten us to where we are today. So I greatly appreciate what they have done for us and the ideas that have percolated because of what they've done. The flat rate pay increase was one of their suggestions. And also looking further at our health insurance. And so the structure that we had a 3-tier option for each of our medical plans previously. And so we have employee only, employee plus 1, any eligible dependent, and then employee plus family, which is really employee plus 2 or more eligible dependents. So the ECT had asked this year when they were doing their research, could we have a 4-tier model, which is employee only, employee plus child or children, employee plus spouse, and then employee plus family, which is spouse and child or children. And our insurance company was able to accommodate that. So we are moving into that direction with the 23-24 health insurance plan. And what that does is the employee plus spouse is a comparable rate to employee plus anyone when you're on a 3-tier. However, employee plus child/children is less. And so our employees who previously were insuring 1 child are going to see a lower cost moving forward in this 4-tier model. And perhaps they had chosen just 1 child to go on the coverage previously. They could add 2 or 3 children if they have eligible dependents, and it doesn't increase that cost like it would have under the 3-tier where they would have had to take family coverage. So I'm kind of excited about having that option available for them too.
Thank you. My last, this is more of a comment. There are some interesting job titles out there, but it's exciting, interesting, and words do matter. So I just would maybe ask to consider an opportunity to take a look at how the terms we're using to categorize people. I think everyone that works for MCC is a professional in their role. And it just maybe needs a little modernization to be a little bit more, I don't know. I'm just struggling with support staff and professional staff and the divide. So comment for you to consider.
I appreciate that. We can definitely take a look at that and see what other options might be available.
Okay, and has Candida written in any comments? I'm looking at Carolyn now on the screen, so I don't know. I don't want to put her on the spot, but I don't want to overlook her. Oh, yes, please.
And this is again, heading back towards the divide. So and I don't like to spend money. I'm sure you know that by now. But I'm still going back to that living wage and where Mohave County, and not just MCC is. Is there some way, since, I don't mean 97%, I'm thinking back 3% because that's the number that the faculty, staff are contributing, but is there some way in our lower waged employees, that some sort of small subsidy could be added as a benefit. And I'm thinking particularly, and I don't know how many single moms or fathers we may have employed here. But to say, you know, if you're in these lower categories, we recognize that this is a big change. We've gone from 100 to 234, and that maybe we could support that with the family or children plan with a 3% stipend or something like that. It's just a conversation has brought that up. So just a thought.
Thank you. I think that the Affordable Care Act, ACA, has certainly been a bonus for people that fall within certain ranges. I think we can recognize that, identify that. And other than differentiating you already have 4 tiers of insurance plans, other than differentiating who is which, chooses where, you could probably have a lot of permutations. You have a good solid plan, a lot of work going into it, and a nice support from people throughout your staff. So thanks for doing that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, Candida did have.
Oh, good, thank you. Candida, Amy's going to read for you, I think. Is that right? Okay. This is Amy reading Candida. Thank you.
I appreciate the information and had similar questions that were previously answered. I also appreciate that we are moving toward a cost share model. With a previous employer, I experienced paying $250 to $700 a month for insurance. I don't recall the percentage of what my increase was for the premium, but that hit me hard as a single parent making a little over minimum wage at the time. I do support the proposed changes to the salaries and benefits. With that said, I would like to approve the 2023-2024 salary schedule as presented in Appendix 3 as part of the employee compensation package. So that was a motion.
So we have a motion from Candida. Thank you.
I'll second. So whoever you want to give it to.
Amy can decide. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you, Candida. We saw your hand and recorded that vote. Thank you. All right, and once again, Jennifer and your group, thank you all for your work and for your very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you for your inspiration.
Madam Chair, for President's report, that wraps that up. Again, thanks to the employee comp team. I do have to compliment them for the 3rd year in a row. They've done a great job, good due diligence, really look at data, provide good information to us and thoughts. So thanks to that team, and thank you, Jennifer, for all your work behind the scenes. And so now we can move forward into administrative divisions, and we have an enrollment report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, Dr. Culver. Am I good?
See how you were added on at the end there, even Dr. Culver's. It's greeting you.
I probably should have put him first. But that's a whole other thing. That's right. Good morning. I'm going to run through spring enrollment super quick because, as you all know, is around this time next month, we'll be celebrating commencement, which essentially is our spring semester is over, and it's a great time to celebrate our graduates. So with that said, we don't have any more classes starting, so really our enrollment for the most part is resting at that 3,500, 3,600 students, with our total credit hours at about 26,600 credits or so. From a headcount perspective, we are down this time last year for our spring, about 1.5%, 1.6 or so, and then about 3% down in credit count, specifically regarding spring. However, with summer, we do have a small plot twist, which is a great plot twist. And that is that from our head count, we are still a little bit behind, but we are still picking up. And as you know, that the semester doesn't start until May 20th. So we still have some time, over a month, to continue to enroll students, not including add drop and a few other items. But with that said, we're at about 1,250 students for summer,
where the plot twist is with our credit count currently, we're at 6,255 credits, and we're actually about 1% ahead or so from this time last year. We are down from our head count, so we have a little less students, but they're taking more credits with their advisors, working with students to ensure that they stay on track for completion, timely completion in that aspect for summer. And then lastly, for fall, we're at 796 students. Lots of time here. We'll really get summer under our belt and get spring wrapped up. Really allows us some time to dive into fall. But with that said, we're at 796 students currently for fall. About 6,600 or so credits. Currently, this morning, it was a little bit more on both of those. And with that said, we're a little bit behind from this time last year in registering students for fall, anywhere from, around 2%. But in credit count, we're actually up from this time last year in registering students for fall. So that really is being able to keep those students on track for completion. It's been a lot of exciting discussion today between Jason Gee and what Dr. Culver presented as well. So obviously there's a lot of opportunity headed for enrollment and really some enrollment growth in 23-24. I know I went through that super quick. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for hanging around to give us that. And you were on and off quick, but we look forward to seeing you at graduation.
Thank you.
Commencement. Thank you. Here comes June. She was waiting so patiently.
Great. Morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Chair, members of the board, Dr. Rubenstein.
And Mr. Coleman.
Dr. Robert.
Dr. Coleman.
Jenny Dixon, Vice President.
Don't forget Shawnee sitting
So I'm here to talk to you about Sim Mom and Sim Baby. So we're expanding our family. Let's talk about single parents, right? We have Sim Man and his junior, right? So we need a mom. We need a mom. Our nursing students in particular have a very hard time finding quality pediatric and obstetric clinical opportunities in our county. Now, when I first started 7 years ago, we used to send our students to Las Vegas to get some of their experiences. And I was presented by community members that we didn't think this was a good idea. Let's keep them here. Why are we sending them other places, right? And honestly, they weren't getting a quality experience. They were getting to see a lot of tragic things, actually. Some things they might consider cool, but it wasn't necessarily preparing them. So we pulled them back. So the state board has said that we can supplement our traditional clinical experience with simulation. So because of the lack of clinical opportunities, we want to get Sim Mom and Baby on each campus. So we're looking at starting in Lake Havasu, and this equipment will really round out the family. We won't need anyone else. And it will be for nursing students. It can be used for EMS students as well. They have to practice with delivery moms. And so they'll be able to share this equipment with us. And the peds piece of this is huge. We have no pediatric clinicals. None of the hospitals take pediatric.
They just ship
them out, right? They ship them to Phoenix.
Yep.
And we don't have the opportunity to call Phoenix Children's and say, can we come? They're a magnet hospital, so they generally don't take community college students. Plus, they have all the universities to contend with. The other issue we have here locally, and this is pretty recent, we're having to compete for our clinical spots here because of some of the universities. In Kingman, we're competing with 2 universities for our spots. And so we're finding a little bit of a
pinch.
Yeah, yes, quite a more of a pinch than we've had in years past. So the Sim Mom and Sim Baby will be used. It's built into the curriculum. So It is often used at least 3 times during any course. It is used for summative assessments of students' abilities, and which was very important, right? These things can be often looked at as toys, and they're so fun and they're so neat. But these are very, very defined instructional opportunities for this equipment. Sorry. My allergies get so bad in Kingman. And so.
Can't eat it.
I know, right? I come up that
She's in
hill.
the Grand Canyon, she has the allergy.
I come up that hill and everything just. So anyway, so very solid curriculum plan for the use of this equipment. And as I said, it will be shared with the EMT and paramedic students.
And it's being funded by a grant.
Yes. Yes, yes, ma'am.
When I remember you talking about a mobile healthcare unit.
Yes.
Could that also be part of these clinicals that these students are having issues with? I mean, I can imagine going up to the reservations,
Yes.
and using that as part of that too when it's not needed for.
Absolutely.
Emergency health.
Absolutely, and that really goes to something that Ashley said earlier, where, so the mobile health unit, which is not really on the agenda table,
No,
but
it's
the
not.
plan is that we will use that to take labs to people so that they don't have to come to campus.
They're transportable, but let's stick with what we've got here.
Yes, so, but these mannequins can be put into those units to be
Yeah.
taken. Yes.
Yeah, right, good, thank you, super. All right, looking for a motion? Moved by Dr. Sir.
I move to approve the expenditure, 207,000 approximately. Or
Not to exceed 207.
Mama and Sim babies.
All right. Seconded by Ashley.
I'll second it, and I wanted to make
And then
a
a
discussion.
yes.
And I have so many questions and thoughts that aren't on this agenda, but just about access to labor and delivery and pediatrics in the county. So maybe we can have a conversation about that later. But this is a great step toward producing good.
Well-prepared nurses.
Yes, thank you.
Because they sure aren't gonna be using that down in Havasu or Bolton, are they, Jennifer, these babies?
Right. Or unless it's only a couple days a month. And
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right, any discussion about this issue, about the motion and the second to spend this money on these mannequins? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, June. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have a.
That would, yes, that would be a fabulous addition to either
It
the
would.
agenda or a workshop.
Workshop. Let's go ahead and continue with the agenda and it's hard not to stick with the things that are so interesting to us. All right, item C. Is that where we are?
Yes.
Yes.
Who's moving us on here?
We are on item C, which is the RFP for a construction manager at risk for the Advanced Manufacturing Training Center. Don Montgomery is here, Janie's here, Linda, the crew is here who have been working behind the scenes to work on this contract. So I will allow them to share any information and ask for your motion based on a recommendation.
Thank you.
Yes, we, excuse me, we put out an RFP for a CMAR construction manager at risk to be the contractor for the EMTC building. Those that went out to the public. And we had an evaluation committee and that did their diligence in reviewing and discussing. And we had a couple of presentations, a few presentations on this. And it was decided that the core construction was our best option and had the most, probably the most capacity, I would say, out of all the others that were there. What they're looking for is we're looking for a motion to accept CORE as our CMAR contractor, as well as there is a recommendation to approve the pre-construction services with reimbursable expenses not to exceed $245,000. There's also a 10% contingency that we'd like to have approved as well of $150,500. And to be included, that would normally be included in the GMP price. The CMAR contractor, after the drawings and all the construction drawings are done, they've gone out and got all their subcontractors' pricing. But we'll develop a guaranteed maximum price. And that would probably be in October, somewhere around there. We're hoping, yeah. And so this would be part of that guaranteed maximum price for the project.
Yeah, I think I am a little confused, not by you, but by looking at our literature here is all. So what you're looking for, do we go back to the second paragraph in the explanation? The 245,050.
Which includes the 79,000.
That's what those two numbers are, of course, and 10% contingency.
10%, yes.
Mhm. And then in the motion, what does the long lead time thing mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, part of that funding, part of that money is to allow us to purchase equipment that have long lead times and purchase it up front. Switchgear, for instance, electrical switchgear has over a year worth of lead time, and some other items that could have those long lead times that might affect our completion of the job in a timely manner, the project in a timely manner. So we'd like to order that type of product up front that have long lead times as part of this, and get those orders placed so we can get them when we need them.
So we're looking for 245 plus 165 plus. Are these two separate? That's where I'm confused. And maybe you are, but I don't want to proceed till we know what we're looking at.
No, that's right, thank you.
That's just the feeling.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
The total that you're looking for in the motion is $245,050, which includes pre-construction services, 155, plus the 10% contingency is on the 155.
That gives you the 79.5, so that gives you the 245,050.
Yes.
Right? Well, it doesn't really give us, but those two numbers don't. They're not adding, the math isn't adding up, that's all we're asking done, we're not, and then what is this 165? 550.
I think that's the 150, 500 plus.
So that goes correct. Say that again.
No, I just.
Add up.
Okay, yes, after conferring with Ms. Green, so there is an error. That one, the 165,550 is the 150,500 plus the 10% contingency. It is included in the 245,050, and we do not need the extra 165. It is just the single amount of $245,050.
So the recommendation is to cross off that second line.
Thank you.
Okay.
But
Now
you know
we're ready.
that, but I think 150 plus 79 is 245, so that 10% contingency is not included in the 245? No? Should we say add the 10%? contingency?
So it doesn't add up, Jen, is what we're saying.
Let's get it. I have 245,1. You're adding in 10% of the 165. That's what I got. Who's going to tell me that?
It isn't the 165 plus 79?
Yes.
Is
Yeah, because the 165,550 is the 150,500 plus 10%. And then the 79,500 doesn't have a contingency
Yes.
with it. It's just 79,500.
Yes, and the math all adds,
Okay.
yes.
Then, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to award $245,050 to Core Construction with the understanding that pre-orders will be part of the project.
Right. So the total amount for the motion was 245,050.
I'll second that.
And second it. Any questions for the conversation? So we're not spending more than 245,050, period, 00, decimal point 00. Yeah, okay. All right.
It's confusing.
Candida, any questions? Ready for the vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I see Candida's hand. Thank you so much. All right, 245,050, what's the vote? In favor? Yes.
Just a comment.
Yeah, I think our exhibits need to be clearer when it comes to these kind of numbers.
You think our what?
The exhibits need to be clearer, so it's very easy to identify what we're asking for. And I'm not seeing this. Earlier in another presentation, the numbers, we didn't really have a handout and this, so I just think we need to have.
The recommendation needs to be clear.
Very clear.
Yes, I think this was the one that I could just feel it. The learning experience, but yes.
A little confusing.
Yeah, the number of zeros are getting longer on these things, which is scary.
Academically, we're doing fine. All right, facilities management, to go ahead. Do you want to introduce Don again, or do you want to just say Don?
I'm going to introduce both Don and Gerald Jones. So we met Don Montgomery. He is our Director of Facilities Management, and Gerald Jones, the Assistant Director, whose primary focus is construction, new construction. And they are here today. I think it looks like Gerald's been assigned and to update us on the facilities management and capital projects that have occurred this year and what the plan for next year is.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Board, I've been asked here to share with you our facilities college projects. So for our Neal campus and Kingman area, fiscal year 23, we have done 3 Zoom room upgrades, the new cafe hood with Ansel fire system, 2 classroom refreshes, multiple HVAC equipment refreshes, flooring, ceiling, lighting upgrades at the Detroit Avenue Center, the pond concrete bog system, the Peach Springs Business Incubator, the ADA sidewalk renovation, a new shade structure for the Phoenix truck driving area, which is in progress for now. The LED exterior lighting project is in progress, and access control in progress. So you
can ask questions.
You got
Yep,
okay.
I got you.
The bog system. So it's basically the filter for the pond. So originally it was a dirt with vegetation and it just wasn't working properly. So now they've used put concrete in there and hopefully it's gonna work a little bit better. So a few pictures to share. There's the cafe hood, the business incubator, and the Zoom room. So for the Neal campus, fiscal year 24, we're gonna do a room 240 interior refresh, which we just discussed the carpet colors yesterday. Classroom refreshes, more HVAC equipment refreshes, asphalt repair, and a shade structure for the pond area, and ADA sidewalk renovations. Lake Havasu City campus for fiscal year 23, PTA interior remodel complete, 2 classroom lighting refreshes, 2 office refreshes, multiple HVAC equipment refreshes, 7 Zoom room upgrades, and the access control is completed there. ADA sidewalk renovation, and a wash bridge ramp renovation in progress. Elevator repairs in progress, and restrooms in the 200 building in progress. Refresh. A few pictures. We have some Zoom rooms, PTA room, that's the remodel, and a lab, PTA lab refresh. Lake Havasu fiscal year 24, upcoming projects, HVAC equipment refreshes, roof coatings. I believe we're going to recoat at least 4 roofs, 2 classroom refreshes, parking lot drives refresh, ADA exterior sidewalk compliance. Okay, Bullhead City, fiscal year 23 projects. We have a new storage building, new fencing and pavement in the rear storage area, paver patio behind 200, refresh the 308 classroom for the carpentry program. Again, multiple HVAC equipment refreshes, parking lot refresh, some of the lots and the driveways, Roof repair on the 600 building. Building 500, lighting refresh to LED. ADA sidewalk renovation. Access control is complete there. Building door lock set replacement in progress. Few pictures to share. We got the classroom refresh. There's the paver patio behind the 200 and a new storage garage. Bullhead City upcoming projects fiscal year 24, campus exterior refresh, asphalt refresh, HVAC equipment refresh, 2 classroom refreshes, and the ADA exterior sidewalk compliance. Our North Mohave campus projects fiscal year 23, new ground storage shed, the renovated facilities garage, HVAC and electric in there. Upgrade 2 Zoom rooms, new roof on the 400 building, HVAC equipment refresh, room 516 lab refresh, and the room 103 computer lab refresh. Fire alarm upgraded for the whole campus. Access control is in progress. Few pictures there. There's the new garage, and actually all the concrete around that is new as well. And the lab classroom refresh. So North Mohave upcoming project fiscal year 24, IT wiring upgrade for the 100 and 300 building, stucco and paint repairs, room 102 computer lab and classroom refresh, HVAC equipment refresh, asphalt reseal and restripe, ADA exterior sidewalk compliance. And then for fiscal year 24-25 future capital projects. So the Advanced Manufacturing Training Center, the design is in progress right now. We have the academic master plan, future instructional program additions, relocations to determine new building needs, and the facility master plan will create a 10 to 15 year capital plan for building projects. Any questions?
We're gonna see. Okay, that concludes your presentation. Are you open to questions or?
Yes.
12 meetings ago, we had some kind of proposal for the HVAC replacement. That was pulled. So everybody decided to go with the refresh rather than replacement.
So I can explain that.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we were looking for that we pulled off the board was the use of HERF funds. Those are the emergency COVID federal funds, to upgrade a number of air conditioning units. It wasn't to replace broken ones. It was to upgrade the filtration system on existing units. That doesn't help us when units break down, though. That wouldn't have. So we had decided that our HERF funds were better spent in other areas, and that was pulled off of the plan for that. I'm going to call it a filtration system upgrade, which included some redesign and engineering of our building systems, as opposed to when we talk about refresh of HVAC units in this presentation, primarily we're replacing the broke down units. And so those were 2 very different approaches to what was going on.
Okay, thank you. And then the total cost, I'm sure it's in the budget somewhere, but.
Total cost for next year, total cost for.
I'll take both.
Total expenditures for this year is $1,055,000. And next year is budgeted at $1.8 million.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nice job, Gerald.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm gonna ask it,
Oh,
because it's
yes.
gonna bug me.
Please.
Access control, is that the key
Yes.
to the cap?
Which we hope to have up and running this upcoming fall.
We're hoping sometime very, very soon. So we have both Bullhead and Havasu. This hardware is completed. We are in the process of, it's about implementation now. We've got to take pictures of everyone and print their cards and get everything programmed in, and we will launch those 2 campuses first. within the next couple months, probably.
Gotcha. Thanks. Thank you both. It's Linda Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Suppenstein. It is that time of year again to talk about the truth and taxation possibilities out there. And it went right to the end. Hold on here. How do I do it from here? Okay, so last year's levy amount was 27 million. And this year, no, it's not right. I'm sorry, excuse me, just a moment. Maybe she has. They're just out of order. Okay. I could fix that. Okay. Sorry about that. That's okay. I was just very confused. All right, so now I have to hit this. Okay. Okay. So it's still a little out of order, but that's okay. We can wing it.
Just share with us what you know.
Okay. So as you know, we are under what's called an expenditure limitation, and that's when the state tells us how much we can spend of local dollars. Property taxes falls under that category of local dollars. So this slide here shows that the expenditure limitation for FY22 was $25,600,000. Our tax levy was $26,500,000. So what that means is there's dollars out there that we've received in local revenue that we can't touch because of the expenditure limitation. There was $862,000 more from our property tax revenues than the expenditure limitation. And when you have a excess local revenue situation like that, those excess revenues can only be used for new construction or permanent improvements to existing buildings. So for FY23, the fiscal year that we are currently in, our expenditure limitation was 25 million. Our property tax levy was 27 million, giving us over $2 million in that excess category that we can only use for those two capital items. We've been given FY24's expenditure limitation, and it is 26 million. And the tax levy would be 28 million if there was no truth in taxation hearing, which means we would stay levy neutral. We would only capture the increase in home valuations and new construction. And then that would leave 1.8 million of property tax revenue above the expenditure limitation that would have to be added to that capital only pool.
Question.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Those dollars forever can only be used in those two ways? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. This is hard to see on the screen, but this is a truth in taxation analysis. This is what we complete to find out if we want to stay levy neutral and not ask to increase the tax rate, how much we would get in tax revenue. And then it shows us how much we would get in tax revenue if we did go out for a truth in taxation hearing. And so here is where you can see, I got to get closer, sorry, that the value of new construction was 59 million. So we are allowed to capture property tax revenue off of that new construction without having to go to a truth in taxation hearing. Sure. And then property valuations, of course, go up every year, and we get to capture existing homes when they go up in value. So we are able to collect all that. So this here tells us that without a truth in taxation hearing, our property tax rate would go down to 1.1546. And it also shows us how much that we are capturing of just new construction, and that's 681,000, which would give us a total of 28 million in property tax revenue if we stay levy neutral, or if we go for a truth in taxation hearing, we can ask for 30 million.
That's at 2%.
That's just
Yes,
the
at
2%.
2%.
We could go more if we
For the
wanted to,
years
because we
we've-
haven't in the last 3 years.
Correct.
But you're, that's at the 2%. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to double check.
And then this is a summary saying that last year's levy amount was 27. This year at levy neutral, and it would be our fourth year of staying that way, is 28 million. And the maximum that we could ask at just 2% is the 30 million.
Shows us once again how fortunate we are that we don't have to ask for truth in taxation.
Right. Yes. So basically, bottom line right now, our property tax levy at levy neutral exceeds our expenditure limitation cap.
Perfect presentation, very concise, and certainly shows us the information we need to make an informed decision. Thank you, Linda. You're welcome. All right, so we would need a motion if we were going to go for truth in taxation, but if we aren't, we don't actually need to have a motion, is my understanding. Right, Amy?
Do we need a motion?
We don't need one.
You need a motion to have one. You can make a motion not to have one.
Does it make it clearer if we make a motion?
If you want to have a motion not to have one, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or you can make a motion to have one if you prefer. but yeah.
Stacy's shaking his head. We have a discussion anyhow after I make the
Okay, go ahead.
So I move that the district not raise its primary property taxes over last year's level. Thus, a truth in taxation hearing would not be required.
Candida? She's seconding the motion.
She don't have two fingers.
I didn't think to look over. Sometimes I look over there and I see Carolyn, so I'm glad to see her. All right, questions, comments? Ready for the vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, we have never been in the country where we needed to, by country, I mean the arena, the zone, where we needed to have one not to hold them. We only have a motion when we're going to have truth in taxation. But if this makes it clearer, that's fine. Whatever works. Okay, well, we have one more thing. That's the board self-evaluation. Candida, are you available to participate in this? Yep, okay, good. All right, so you have did you bring your single board evaluation in? Dr. Singer, you didn't participate in that. All right. Looking at the numbers, I wondered when I saw that, I was thinking it was 5 of us and therefore. So as we go through these sections, if you have your own individual one, remember each section that you listed your number on based on how you felt what you were doing, not what the board was doing. So when you get to a section or a part where you see something that indicates, oh, gee, I didn't do really well on that and I would like to do better, that's our opportunity to make sure we either seek the information online, through other sources, through the conferences we go to, all the things you do, or ask the administration to clear that up for you. If it's a topic of general concern, then the administration could do a workshop, give us some time on that, and that could be scheduled. If it's something that only one person has concern about, that person could meet with the administration or Zoom or whatever. So let's go through this now and see where we are. First thing I'd ask you to do is you look at your own, look at a section at a time, not an item at a time. And section 1 is board operations. So you can see by the numbers that are in our attachment that Amy put in the appendix there, where we came up with a 4 average. In the past, we've used our fingers and we could see where everybody felt they were. But last year she came up with this system and that's fine mathematically. So looking at number 1, board operations, which items do you want any discussion or comments on? And if you do, either just point out, watch for you or whatever. And then Amy, you can send Amy. Anything on there?
I'll just, I guess, start because numbers are very different from mine. I think the 1.3, which is sufficient time discussing the future direction of the college, I listed that as 2, only because sometimes we get kind of caught up like today in something that kind of relates, but yet we can't talk about it Sometimes it gets lost. So that was mine. I also made a comment for myself, number 6. And I also said as part of that, that we've got new members that have joined the board over the last several years. And it's going to take some time for us all to understand as a group the vision and goals of the institution and address community needs. And that kind of went with 1.6. So I gave them about the same number, but.
So if that's a 2, is that would be a satisfactory, but in your mind, are you saying you'd like to have more opportunity to do that? And if so, how do you propose we find more opportunity to do that? The 1.3, for instance.
Yeah, I think we do need to spend some more time discussing as a new group the future direction of the college. And I guess in the workshop sessions that we keep on having, it may be a good time to do that. Because we're a very different board than we were 4 years ago. So that was my thought in that. So anyhow, that's it for me for that section.
Anything else? No. Okay, I would just look at 1.8. I just couldn't come up with an answer on that because I sometimes feel very conflicted about that. The chair serves as the voice of the board when dealing with public. In reality, and I present this argument every year. The chair, you all have a voice. And so when you're contacted by the newspaper in your area or another area, and you address or respond to that, you're doing so responsibly. And that's perfectly fine. I don't feel that everything has to be filtered through the board chair. And so I don't find, I'm very satisfied with not having it only be the board chair. So that's what I want to make real clear to you. Do I serve as the voice of the board with the media? No. You know, we all have free will and we all have the opportunity to speak. We're citizens and you can speak anytime you want. I would encourage you to consider with caution, but how you speak and what you say, because it's going to come back to you and the college. So obviously referring through administration is helpful when it's an issue, but I personally do not think the chair, and in my case, it's me this time, is the voice of the board in dealing with the public and media. Another example of dealing with the public just hit me. Very fortunate to have Candida available, but also able and certainly part of going up to the incubator the other day at Beach Springs. It's obvious, she's speaking with the public up there and she should be. She's from this area and I've always encouraged you to attend. We've all been encouraged to attend events that are held in our own community. And when you do that, if you're holding an event at Havasu or Kingman, you went to that prom and danced and showed up for us in your dancing gown out and just fine. Anything in your community, be it something serious or not. So again, I don't think that the chair is the only person that floats around the community. When this design was put upon us, I think was because it was a generic device. So be aware of that. You can always give yourself a 1 for that and don't think the chair has to do it. Thank you.
And I also am grateful for Amy and James too. Recently, the media picked up on something I said at the last meeting. And a press release went out about it. And I was quoted, and I'm sure we've all had that experience where we've been quoted. And Amy sent me a copy by way of James, or James by way of Amy, to make sure that the wording in the press release was correct. So that's appreciated. And generally, my go-to to stay out of trouble is refer everybody to James. Say, why don't you give James a call? Well, unless it's if it's a direct, what do you think?
Yeah, they're looking for your opinion. Yeah,
I answer, but generally, if it's, what's going on, good things when it's called James. So.
Okay. Thanks. Section 2. Where were we with that? Anything there that we can bring in outside? I hope that we're all using that resource page that Amy keeps current on our board of governors thing. The most recent one was the parliamentary procedure workshop. I attended that through Zoom and it was lengthy, but when you get to slide 36, from slide 36 on pertains to groups of 10 or less. So the first 35 slides you can look at if you want, but unless you going to participate in a meeting of more than 10 people and leave it, you don't have to worry. Go to slide 36, look at those 10 slides, and it'll tell you how meetings of our size fall.
And I think the 2.3 and the 2.6 and the 2.7 all go together. We can never have enough information about any of those. I mean, none of us are experts in every area somebody in this room is an expert in. So, you know, the fact that you present what you present and the way you present it now is very different from when I entered the board. I'm almost up, so it has to be 7 years because I was appointed for a while. It's very different and much more concise, much more useful, and even though half of it flies out, you know, of our heads after a week. But I really find it really important, and thank you.
Yep.
Candida has.
Oh, I have to keep looking over my shoulder.
Amy and my.
I'm trying not to put my back.
Ashley and I have it down.
Yeah, the two of you are on the perfect, great. Candida, we're ready.
Candida says, I like learning opportunities. Sometimes it makes it challenging to participate in workshops because of timing. For example, today I have another meeting I have to attend this afternoon. I don't mind learning virtually. I'm wondering if we could have 30 minutes to an hour long sessions on new topics. That was for the first section, board operations.
Oh, gosh, thanks. Thank you very much. I'm going to look at that screen and you're going to jump over my shoulder, Amy. Portion 3. Does Candida have something in portion 3? Okay, I would say I'll start with her, that'll be easier. No, thank you so much. I put down for 3.8, long-range facilities, I just didn't score it because it's currently under review. And so do we have a plan? We always have a plan. But right now, the plan's under review and going forward.
And one of the comments that I made, to make sure I get the right comment with the right thing, that we need stronger documentable evidence of program success or effectiveness, particularly in light of the fact that, you know, we spend significant amounts of money, particularly when it's a new proposal. And I kind of said the same thing. There's lots of things under development to be presented to the board, so that we need to continually review what's happening with regard to facilities.
That would probably be 3.5 maybe.
Yeah, 3.4, 3.5, 3.7, 3.8.
And that may be something that definitely, not maybe, is something definitely administration would be able to flesh out, what's the word, enhance for us? Does that fit in with what you and I were talking about? Okay. Anything else?
I will add a comment here because it seems like I scored pretty differently for some of the items in this section. Let's see. Okay. Definitely item 3.6, not because I don't think that there are fair and equitable processes. I just don't know that the board has, I think it's pretty broad and we have an expectation or a trust in the staff to do that and through Dr. Finkenstein. So that question, I felt sort of fraudulent if I said, oh yeah, we're doing that just great, because I guess
you really don't know. We put our trust in.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. And similarly with 3.5, I don't know that I could say I can look at a data point about efforts to improve student success and then directly align that with changes to policy and practice. So some of this is just, I don't want to say, yeah, we're awesome at this, because I don't really know.
Right. Well, and if you look at 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.8, We didn't say we were awesome, we said we were satisfactory.
Yeah, that's true.
I just use that as an
Yes.
example, because that's what went through my mind, and the same numbers that we're all hitting on were the ones that I had. So, I think we thought we were best at long-range planning and the annual review of facilities, which we just had thanks to Don and Gerald, so we can check that one off and give us a 1. So those are areas that Dr. Klippenstein definitely can help us with and support us in and bring information and guide us through how we can be more successful. Does that make sense?
Just to confirm items, I was trying to take notes on the
I don't
items
blame
that
you.
were brought up.
It's
I
hard enough.
apologize, Ashley.
3, 4, 5.
I have, 3.3 down through 3.6 in a way, but I wanted to make sure I captured your thoughts, Ashley, because I might have missed it.
Yeah, I guess I made specific comments about 3.6 because I don't think we have specific policies.
You don't know what the practices and policies are.
Right.
You mean practices and procedures related to the policy in regards? Okay,
I think our policy just says this will be done.
right. And so then behind the scenes, it's all.
That's it, period.
But the practices.
We call it below the line, right? Below the line then is the procedure, so.
Yeah.
3.3 through 3.6 seemed are there, Andy, I'm looking at you.
She had agreed with the 3.8 facilities plan.
Oh, good, okay. Yeah, that was it today. Boy, right underneath that line you got us. Great. Anything else? All right. Item 4, board-president relationship. We're at least satisfactory or above in that zone. I think in life, that's outstanding. Are you looking for outstanding? I'm never looking for, I say when I grade myself, I never think, not never, there are times I think I'm outstanding, but
Well, I think we're outstanding.
far between.
We're outstanding in delegating the administration of a college to the president. I mean, none of us historically on this board have ever tried to supersede, decision. We may not agree with it, but we have a communication about it and then delegate to him what needs to be done. And we don't go running around saying, okay, Tim, you were bad, you're drinking Coke at our meeting. So I think we deserve, once, are you rebelling against Coke? Yes.
Okay.
Good. I'm gonna try to do that, but I don't really like Pepsi.
And I would like to say on 4.7, I think we are, can certainly commend Stacy, Dr. Klippenstein, for his energy and enthusiasm embracing. He attends things, he participates in different conferences, and at state level is what I want to bring in. He's representing himself and the board and Mohave County at state level this year as president of the organization. So we're very professional growth. Yep. And lots of other things he does and is part of, and putting that presentation together for Las Vegas. See?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
I'm teasing you.
You wrote Tim on it, yeah.
So that's item 4. Item 5, I think that's the one where we have to look for self-improvement, huh? That's pretty much a personal thing. I think trustees, because we're judging ourselves, this is a reflection on our summary of how we as a board feel we're doing, but each of our own indicators are our own professional, personal responsibility. Can't really ask someone else to amend their behavior or for yourself, whatever works for you is what's going to send to a board member.
I think a big part of this is, again, because we have new members with new thoughts and new ways to communicate, that it's going to take us as an entire board some time to really understand where each other is going.
Yeah, and for me with this one, especially 5.5.
Okay.
I don't have a background in an education institution, or certainly not higher education from a professional background. So I I know I need to still learn a lot more about that in order to do a good job in a governing role. So I've answered those more personally.
The same thing with the foundation. We really have very little communication history with the foundation, so that's always, a struggle to give a 1-2 because we have some that don't really know on a day-to-day basis what's going on. And then this is my year where I struggle when we talk about is my time worthwhile on this board? You go back and you go forward. It's like it's frustrating and there's more time and more meetings and more times and more decisions and lots of money to think about spending, which I personally find scary. When you start talking about millions of dollars. So this year I've struggled and I'm sure I'm going to continue to struggle with it for another year or so, but that was my weaknesses.
Yeah, I think for it to say you're not, because you aren't higher ed, that has nothing to do you support the college? Are you a positive person? Yes, always. I've never, can't imagine you not being. So I would
She's
just
a champion question.
encourage all of us to look at this and realize none of us, unless you're beyond human, are going to be outstanding in every category you embrace all your life and activities. And this is certainly an indication, personal self-reflection of that for yourself. And that's the purpose of it. So we have encouraged Stacy to bring in more information or help guide us and make us smarter in section 3, which is where we as a group will be looking at. And again, pick your priorities for yourself and the others. And Candida, do you have anything else? In there. I know she has to be somewhere at 12 o'clock and it's 12:02. So do you have anything else you'd like to type in closing?
She just said she agrees and would like to learn more in higher ed national policies.
Okay. A lot of that is available also through our resources. Sometimes attending conferences and something, all of us do, some don't. But there's just an awful lot of information online every day. You could get something shot to you by signing up for a list. Anything else on that? All right. My agenda aside, I'm going over to it. And what it is that we're going to meet in May. And I see you've changed the time to 11. That's great. I was thinking that we had talked about 11, but yes, and I thought I saw noon somewhere. So great. 11 down in Bullhead on the Bullhead campus, and commenceements at 3 right down the street. And we can carpool down there if you want, or we'll figure something out. And when will you be giving us general guidelines of what you're expecting of us at commencement? Do you send that ahead of time or?
Yes, I can.
Well, I think that's,
time-wise and all of that, and yeah, we'll be getting that to you as soon as we are wrapping up where we're at now with our commencement speaker.
Sure.
We have our founder award, and we're just wrapped up yesterday. We need to send a letter out to our mace bearer. So we have a lot of those logistical things still to fall into place, but we're getting really close. But yeah, we'll definitely provide an update.
and with maybe within a few days before, if I'm speaking to Amy because she's in charge of dressing us. And that's all. I mean, that's why I'm avoiding you in this comment or question. Make sure you let us know what your expectations are of us. For that portion, of course, Stacy's in charge of everything else, but. Okay. Yep. Thanks. Any questions? Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Workshop, we have lunch. I apologize. We do have lunch here. And then
I saw someone walk out the base.
you want to grab lunch and get
The
down to the
baby's
workshop?
here. Where are you?